Bonjour, bonjour, everybody. Welcome back to welcome welcome to a watch party with Retzbull. We'll be watching meme analysis today, looking at memes through a psychological, philosophical, alchemical, esoteric, and symbolic lens. I think I got all of them. Why don't you introduce yourself, Retsu?
Hello, I'm Retsu. I'm your friendly lobster VTuber, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Fleur, for having me. I hope I'm saying that right,
Oh,
but thank you for having me here.
yes, yes. French pronunciation's very hard, but you got it right. 100 points.
Okay, awesome. 100 points. Let's go.
But I'm glad that you live to be here. My arms are kind of spazzing out. I just gotta like reset the calibration on this or something. All right, but so before we get into this, since this covers a wide range of academic stuff, I'm just gonna ask you some preliminary questions about which. Well, actually, first I should introduce myself to your viewers. So I am Fleur de O. I'm a cute gothic nun that covers philosophy, French, video games, and many other things of valuable discourse. So if you if you like that, do check me out. But I'm gonna ask you some preliminary questions, Retsu, about some of the things that have been in here.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on Sigmund Freud, firstly?
So I know he was the guy who he was he did a lot of testing on parental relationships with children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that am I thinking of somebody else? Um I honestly like to take a kind of neutral stance on most of them. I think there is truth in maybe some of what he says. You know, like some people do get attached to their parents, and some people, he's the guy I think who says that some people look for traits that they find in their parents, the opposite sex parent, in like romantic lovers, right? Or am I
Yes,
am
yes,
I totally
you're
getting
right
it
on the
wrong?
basis. Sigmund Freud's
Okay, okay.
major contributions to psychology were really pushing the idea of the unconscious, which is shaped by desire, uh, or physical desire, The
Mm.
Oedipus complex, stages of childhood
Yeah, yeah.
development, and the idea that childhood trauma or formation leads to leads to mental developments later in life or heavily influences them.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I remember him having, yeah, the stages where it's like the phallic stage in life, and like, those stages.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember those were very interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you for if anyone's watching, if you didn't know, Sigmund Freud was the inventor of the term anal in the terms of someone being very uptight or unpleasant, which he attributed.
Really?
Yeah, he attributed to that being someone who was in childhood incontinent or unable to find relief in that sense. So there are some of his theories are kind of
Damn.
far fetched, but he did have a major influence on psychology. Uh, all right. So next up with the preliminary questions. Uh, well, actually, this just goes off of Sigmund Freud still. What do you think of Oedipus Rex?
Um, Oedipus, right? Was that the story of
Yeah,
Oedipus?
the story of Oedipus the king.
I remember just reading it in what's it called? English class, and I remember that he stabbed his eyes out. But I don't think it was really his fault because he didn't know that that was his mom. Like nobody told him. So I don't think you could really fault him. I think he kind of overreacted by stabbing his eyes out and making himself blind. And that's all I kind of remember about it. It was a very dramatic story of events that did not need to happen, in my opinion. But it's still good. I still enjoyed it,
I read it
honestly.
in English class as well, and I actually had the same, thoughts about it. Like, the gods are kind of just doing this for their amusement over humans. Like, how could you be so cruel and leave people to their fate? But one of the things that's brought up in the
Yeah.
series is the very interesting relationship that people have with gods or projections of gods, you might call them. Yeah, and how often gods are representative of inner desire. Uh, but that'll come up in the series, so we won't touch too much on that. Next up,
I see.
you said you took intro to psych. Did you ever hear the name Carl Jung?
Yes, yes. I think it was in the textbook. I don't exactly remember off of the top of my head what he did though. It's been a while. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
some buzzwords that might remind you are archetypes, anima, animus, the shadow.
Mm, the
Well, actually,
shadow.
actually, if you might have also heard of Jung through persona.
Oh, is it the like ego? No, he's not the ego dude, right? And the like,
He does
what
have
was it? The
ego in
super
his
ego
system,
or
but
something?
that comes from Freud. Id, superego, ego.
Ah, yeah. Okay, I see. I see. All right. I don't remember too much. You'll have to
Yeah.
brush me.
All right, all right. So to give a gist of of Jung's system of the mind, he believed that we have a conscious sense of self, which is not the self, and is more of our construction around it, the ego, uh, and that branching off the ego, our persona, or how we, or the masks we use to interact. But then these all kind of tie back into the ego. But the ego is not the self, and the self is kind of the undifferentiated core of the being. Everything that's super intrinsic to you, your conscience, uh, that the focal of your being essentially. And then everything that you don't recognize that is also part of you but not part of your ego becomes your shadow. And your shadow you cannot recognize it. It is if you were confronted by it you would be tormented by it, and so it is projected outwards onto uh, other groups, supernatural forces like demons or gods, and uh,
Hmm.
and uh, and especially in dreams, monsters in dreams or uncomfortable situations in dreams are caused by the shadow trying to make itself heard,
Mm,
and that self
yes, I
sabotage
see.
is because of the shadow also acting, and that the ultimate goal of a healthy mind is to integrate all of the shadow and all of the ego into your being, so that there is nothing that is constructed or repressed about you.
Hmm. I see. Okay, that's a very interesting concept. The shadow and all. I think this is the first time I've actually heard of it.
Hmm.
So, but
I know that Jung
yeah.
is excluded a lot from psychology as well as philosophy, because philosophy of the mind, what he was doing and trying to get pushed to psychology, was not super appreciated. It's a lot more mystical. Uh, when he actually gets down
Oh,
to it, it's a lot more mystical, and so a lot of people brushed it off. Uh, and so he's kind of so he's
I
kind of
see.
he's kind of had his own tradition that's been separate from everything. But even though everything has been vindicated about his theories, it's a lot of people don't recognize it or don't teach it unless you get really down into it.
Yeah, that sucks. I guess. I feel like even if you don't agree with something, you should still teach it, and even if it's seen as like unorthodox, it's still good to let people have a look into it and form their own opinions.
Yes, this series can be considered actually one of the best vindications of Jung in the way that he ties memes back into patterns throughout history. But yes, since you're the one taking the set class, I'd also like to ask, why don't you just share like some things like questions you actually have about human psychology, or memes and
Oh man.
ideas in general.
I don't know if I have really any questions on it. Like I don't really think about human psychology too much in depth, I think. I just kind of when it pops up in a game and it makes me think of it, then I'll talk about it. I just think it's really interesting how people like, it's it's very superficial, but people everybody acts in a different way, right? And we have morals and ethics in place, but nothing is ever really right or wrong, even though we might see it as a definite right and a definite wrong. Nothing is right or wrong. If that makes sense,
Hmm.
people just act in the ways that they do, and it's kind of funny. I don't know, interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I'm tempted to add a video back into the playlist because you mentioned that, but
Oh,
I think that yeah,
oh,
I as I was talking about with the self, the shadow, and the ego, I do think that rather than casting things off as deplorable and unreconcilable, which only breeds shame, and of course, as the saying goes, shame breeds repetition, and we'll never be able to progress beyond beyond our own failings that way. I think we have to recognize and work on and come to accept, but also learn to live with the parts of us that seem to run counter to everything, and understand why those exist or why they were formed, so that we can
yeah.
also interact with the world better. And
Hmm.
that is kind of what that is kind of what it means within the Jungian tradition, but also within just I think uh, a more spiritual tradition in general, to become a fully recognized being. Something that is complete, uh, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that you have to be self-aware to kind of progress and improve yourself. But what's interesting about that is that I know a lot of people actually I've talked to a lot of people who are very self-aware of things that they don't like about themselves. Oh, I'm an alcoholic, or oh, I'm a bad friend to all these people. But yet they don't do anything to change. They just kind of they know if they stay the way they are, they will continue to be unhappy and they won't be fulfilled in life, but yet they continue to do it. And it's really interesting. It's because it's like, why would you do that? But then again, some people are just like that.
I mean, I'd
It's
say
really
to
interesting.
ooh, my arm just bugged out there. But I'd say to those people, they are acutely aware of their own failings. However, they repress and do not recognize the good parts of themselves, and thus allow themselves to be continually, their worst self or their, sabotaged
Mm,
self. Because if they could truly
that's
recognize their
true. That's
potential
true.
despite their failings, they would not be given up.
Yeah. I guess that's how it is for most people. But I do know somebody who's the exception to that. He was a very smart and intelligent person, and he absolutely knew his capabilities because his grades, and he had that pride. But yet it was weird because he knew he was going down a path that wasn't great for him. But I don't know. I think he ended up getting it all sorted out. But like some people also do know their strengths, yet they still don't fix their situation, which you know is very interesting as well. Very interesting how people act.
Well, I think it would be good to get
But yeah,
into it,
that's
but maybe at the end we could have a discussion about whether it's because you mentioned going down the right path in life, whether it's easier now to figure out our right path in life, or if it would be easier in some previous time. Because I've thought about that a lot, in the ways that people seem to be discontent
mm,
and lost and unable to find their calling in this time, but these problems are well very much lessened or much more absent in times where it seems like counterintuitively people had less choice or less paths or even less ability to achieve them except for the select few who could. But there was
that's true. That's true.
but I think that it might be
Mm.
something good for them. Anyways, let's get into this first one. We'll be
Yeah,
starting meme analysis with the first
the
video of
first
the
step.
channel. Queen of England death predictions.
Oh, he's there.
Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine on my end.
I just got back from January 5th, 2019. The Queen is dead.
Music.
Welcome to Meme
This is a
Analysis.
blast from
Today
the
we're going to
past.
be analyzing The Queen dies on January 5th, 2019.
Boy.
This is a very complex meme, so I'm going to have to look deep into the roots of it. A meme that I think is absolutely integral to understanding it is the very bizarre and surreal image accompanied by the caption, "This meme is from the future. You don't get the reference yet." So already in these early memes, we see the potential for memes arriving from the future. Now, to understand the metaphysics that allow memes to arrive from the future, even in the context of humor, we have to look at time travel and how it is that an image, a symbol, can travel through space and time, which involves Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity, which is that the unconscious mind is relative, that it's not affected by space and time, and then Nick Land's hyperstition, which is the ability of fiction to become reality, and for fictional truths to already be true in the future. So, to look at a hyperstitional or synchronistic meme that is already come and past is the Mall of America on December 15th, 2018. It started out as a Doge meme, along with memes that were sort of hindsight is 2020, like, oh, I can't wait to be a soldier in Vietnam on April 30th. I don't know. There's a lot of these Doge memes that are looking at tragedies throughout history and placing him there as a naive individual, which is already placing that meme in the past and placing the viewer in the future. So, when we look at memes that assume knowledge, they are assuming a knowledge that is greater than the viewer. That is the you don't get the reference yet, and hindsight is 2020. It was only a matter of time before we place a meme that we were laughing about, the past being bad, and a meme coming from the future and telling us something that is yet to come for us will be terrible. This is embodied in the Queen dying on January 5th. So, this is in fact synchronistic with another meme phenomena that was arising, which is the prophesied return of Uganda Knuckles. Now, the prophesied return of Uganda Knuckles involves something very important. Back when they were very popular on VR chat, they would attach themselves to whatever girl was there and declare her to be the queen. And eventually, after they got bored, they would say, spit on the queen. Now, this prophecy stated that Uganda Knuckles would become popular again in January of 2019, at the dawn of the new year. Isn't it perfect that it would coincide with the prophesied death of the real queen? This also ultimately relates to predictive meme calendars. Each year, around January, it is a common tradition to think up what memes will come. You may be thinking that it's very far-fetched that memes can arrive from the future, but something we talked about in a previous video on Sprite Cranberry is that the meme calendar accurately predicted aggressive Sprite being a meme in December. It's, I think, uncanny. So, to flesh out these concepts, I will read to you a bit from the books that discuss them. Eventually, she started making things up, but even that became entangled with coincidence, and with cybergoth hyperstition, assembled from fictional quantities which make themselves real. Carver has made her whole life out of hyperstition. Even her name is a pseudonym. She continuously returns to the imperceptible crossing where fiction becomes time travel, and the only patterns are coincidences. Her notes on the Sarkon meeting pulse with Lemurian sorceries, demonic swarms, ageless time wars, and searches for the limbic key. She navigates Mobian circuits, feeling that a vaguely recollected rumor is about to occur. Alright, I've just read from Nick Land's Fanged Numina, the essay Occultures. To further this, I'm going to read a passage from Synchronicity by Carl Jung. We must assume that there was a lowering of the threshold of consciousness, which gave him access to absolute knowledge. For the unconscious psyche, space and time seem to be relative. That is to say, knowledge finds itself in a space-time
The meme is
continuum
arriving from
in
the
which
future,
space is
Dr.
no longer
Soul
space,
Morpheus.
nor time time.
It hasn't
If,
come
therefore,
yet.
the unconscious should develop or maintain a potential in the direction of consciousness, it is then possible for parallel events to be perceived or known. What those two texts are indicating is essentially the utter relativity of the unconscious mind, that it is totally unaffected by linear time, and that individuals are capable of receiving knowledge from the future that has already been completely understood by the unconscious, and then delivering it, whether in art, in a dream, in fantasy, or as a prophetic vision. It's important to see that these memes are not just meaningless jokes, but that they are, in fact, a practice in a very deep metaphysics.
Hmm.
Remember, memes matter.
All right, I am not an
I
X
feel
browser,
like
Dr. Zerk. All right, we gotta talk about that because there's a lot going on there. Also, there were some videos on an older channel I forgot about, but who cares? This is the new season of the X Files. All right, well, let's get into it. Surface thoughts, first impressions.
okay, so it was cool how he brought up things like meme prediction calendars and stuff, but the end there seemed a little bit pretentious, pretentious way to look at memes, like he was kind of diving deep, and but memes I feel like, they're just shit posts. But maybe there is something deep about them that I just am missing out on. I don't know.
You think they're just shit
But very
posts?
informative.
I hope to break that idea by
I
the end of this. But this is some Metal Gear Solid shit. In fact, Metal Gear Solid is one of it was if you've read Kojima's kind of design diaries, he talks about the main ideas of the series were memes and genes. Uh, Surprised I haven't taken
Century.
psychedelics, Dirk. But so we have this idea, which is the crux of this, which is hyperstition. Uh, which is the idea that information can come from the future to the past, and also the idea at the same time that information in the past can create the future.
Mm,
Now, this seems a little bit far fetched until you realize that we've had many instances of hyperstition past, in our past, that those being prophetic visions. People have prophetic visions of events. Sometimes they won't make sense until after the event has happened. Sometimes they are very descriptive of what will come. I think one of the most telling of kind of hyperstitions that works as something that creates the future but also describes it is the cycle of civilizations. This being the belief that civilizations, this across cultures, India, China, um, etc., which is the idea that civilizations have four ages, each declining, with the eventual culmination that they end, are reborn, and it continues. This even has a biblical metaphor. The statue, which has, I believe, gold head, silver shoulders, iron chest, and legs of clay and iron. So this is an idea
hmm.
that, well, as that describes what will come in the future, but is also very very definite about it, and has inspired many millenarian ideas about we're living in the end times and such. Which for some have been true. If you were living in the late Roman Empire, you certainly were living in the end times. So that's
I know
my
the
hyperstition I get too. Would you have anything you think describes that?
well, I they used oracles actually in like the Greek and Roman times, right? There was that one emperor where I think his wife had a dream, a bad dream, and she was like, "Hey, don't go to this meeting. I got a really bad feeling about it." And he's like, "It'll be." And actually, it was canceled. I believe it was canceled once because something happened. Either he got sick or something like that. And then the next time that it was brought up and planned, his wife had a bad dream, and she's like, "Hey, don't go to this." And then he went, and then he got stabbed. Right.
Beware
I'm
the
pretty
Ides
sure
of
that's.
March, Caesar, and it was I think it was Caesar's
Yeah.
wife, as well as an independent soothsayer. Yeah. Moral of the story: don't be prideful and trust strange women giving out prophecies on the Roman streets.
Yeah. But maybe trust your wife. I don't know.
Trust your wife too. That's a good lesson as well.
But yeah, so it's kind of interesting that those kind of things were actually used, back then. I guess nowadays they're kind of seen as, just like fun stuff that you don't really believe in too seriously, but back then, they took it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, oracles kind of came to an end with, well, with the Age of Reason. Uh, at least once that spread enough that no one would trust, say, a traveling gypsy giving out readings and the like. But we still practice forms of divination. Uh, most commonly, if you've ever gone to a fair, you've probably gotten a tarot reading. But those are quite general and interpretable, but a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on them, and that can be actually another simpler way is if you put emphasis on a prophecy and it comes true, and then you can say that information created what would to come. Uh, though, what were the circumstances that led to that information being procured? We have to wonder if it was truly describing the future, or if it created the future by virtue of prescribing something.
Mhm. And that actually, this is a series. Will we go over the one guy that's like, your thoughts create reality, like nothing is a
Oh
coincidence,
yeah,
right?
that guy. I mean,
Will he show up or?
he is trying to promote something, and he's been doing it very well by being very strange. And so he would probably
Yeah.
say he's manifesting what he desires, but somehow
Oh.
he has had the will to the will and charisma, as strange as it is, you might say, to get his desire out to millions and millions of people who are now giving him the attention he wants.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And it kind of contributes to what you were talking about. It's just like he's manifesting his will and stuff like that. I feel like he'd be a really good guy to kind of like deep dive into as well because he just kind of popped up out of nowhere and then suddenly he was big on TikTok and Twitter and all that.
Yeah. I like the edit of this video where the lady runs past. They edited like a thunderclap sound, so it's like he turned her and she got smited.
Honestly, that's probably what happened in real life. Good stuff.
And I don't know if she was a paid actor or not, but if that really was just like
I don't
spur of
think
the moment, like
so.
that's a good take, let's do that. It seems too far fetched to be that, but if it is that, then that's a very, very lucky coincidence for him.
Because like none of his other videos, like he seems to film in very, like obscure places in the forest that I'm pretty sure he doesn't expect to be bothered, and then she just happened, you know, to jog by. And then she maybe wasn't expecting this guy like garbed out in black, with the pointy eyes. So I really think it was she just happened to be there, but that's just my thought on it.
Uh, and this will probably go. This will probably be another, who's that question. But have you heard anything about Nick Land?
Nick Land. I might be confusing him with somebody else. I know that there's like a political Nick person, but Nick Land, is he political? I don't think so. Or is
Uh,
he just like
I mean,
philosophy
he
stuff?
did a bunch of he founded some political syndicate in the political uh, science and just general weird shit syndicate in the 80s called the CCRU, where he was talking about the future to come and cybernetics and all that. And by cybernetics, I don't just mean
Uh,
modification of the body. I mean the integration of technology into society.
oh, I see, I see. I don't think I've really heard of him in detail. I've
Yeah,
probably just read the name here and there.
I know he is memed a lot online, but it's like also like a like who the fuck is that unless you're privy to certain things.
Yeah.
Jesse, what the fuck is a Nick
But I mean,
Land?
cybernetics is Cybernetics is cool though. It's really cool that he
Mhm.
explored that topic. Especially where we use technology so much these days, right? Like you can't go a day without using technology usually.
You
At
could
least
say
you
we're
know
living in a
the
cyberpunk future already, just without anything cool for our
honest.
bodies. Instead, we have phones and advertising that gets in your brain and mass data collection.
But I mean, we do have like things like prosthetics and pacemakers, which I mean, they help people. So I guess if you count stuff like that, but does that count
I
for
guess
like
we do. I
cybernetics, or
don't
does
know.
it
I'm
not?
not. I'm not planning to chop off my arm for a prosthetic anytime soon. They gotta install a cannon or something in those to make it worthwhile.
There's definitely going to be a black market. I do believe personally that we're going to get there, you know. I know I had my tinfoil hat in one of my streams where I said something about microchips in our brains with Wi-Fi. But I honestly think it's going to be a thing eventually, right? Like eventually in the future. We're going to be so dependent on technology one day, I feel.
Yeah,
Because
I
it
mean,
just
yeah, the technology dependence thing is not going to be a they're subjecting you. They're going to chip you without your knowledge. It's going to be you're going to be lining up in droves to get the new brain chip. Better
yeah,
sleep schedule. Your friends can call you out easily, and definitely no advertisements for only a small sum every year.
Oh gosh, yeah, and it's like it's funny to say it now because it doesn't seem like it's honestly gonna come around, but looking at everything, we might just get there. It's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be anytime soon. But hundreds of years from now, maybe, or maybe like 100 plus. Because it's just we use our phones every day, and for contacting people, for business, and even we're so reliant on medical technology to expand our lifespans. You know. So I feel like technology is really it's gonna be really really big in the future, way
Yeah.
bigger than now.
I think how it's going to be is we're either going to make the jump, and because the oil situation is, I think, the oil and energy
Oh, true.
situation, we're either going to make the jump where we're gonna have so much energy we don't even know what to do with because we've expanded into the solar system and are setting stuff up on other planets and have technologically integrated everything to be super efficient, or we're gonna one day realize everything's running dry. What do we do? And there will probably be a skirmish over the last drops, and then it's back to human history as for the most as for the majority of civilization. Uh, a pretty
Definitely.
agrarian, low energy world with some conveniences probably left over, but the industrial revolution is we don't have the surface resources to have a new industrial revolution, so that'd probably be just like, yep, this is life now.
hmm But as humans, I do believe that we will always figure something out, I think. It's just like human nature to like solve problems. I think, we counter a problem, we do our best to solve it, especially if it's something so that it impacts our life like that, like energy resources, right? Like if we run out of something, we're gonna find a way to either produce another energy resource or find another energy resource, I feel.
Yeah,
But
I say on
it's
that, I wonder what the problems will be when we come to that, because I think the way it goes will probably be dependent on what people's concerns are, and their concerns might be, do we want to live in ever expansion, or do we want to go back to something simpler because expansion isn't treating us well? I think like it'll be like
hmm.
looking at that like is humanity's place somewhere else, or is humanity's place down here? But we're kind of losing people.
Mm.
We're kind of losing people. People are getting
Yeah.
brain fuzz. So let's move on to
Sorry, sorry.
something much more simpler. No, no, this is very fun. I love talking
Yes.
about this stuff. The Oedipus
Yeah,
complex.
it's very interesting.
Hello, this is Meme Analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the Oedipus complex. No, Mom. Mom, please, I have to get this video done, please, Mom. Ah! Hello, this is Meme Analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the Oedipus complex in memes. Now, the Oedipus complex is one of Freud's most notorious and infamous ideas, an idea that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with. And that's because it relates to the most integral nucleus of humanity, which is the mother, the father, and the child, wherein all dynamics that will affect a person throughout life are initiated. Now, Freud sees the situation perfectly exposed in the Greek tragedy Oedipus the King by Sophocles, in which Oedipus is foretold that he will kill his father and sleep with his mother by an oracle. But Oedipus, his father, casts him away. But, of course, the fates will have their way. The unconscious will have its way. And so Oedipus, by many of his own attempts at a life, ultimately returns, and fate has its way, and he kills his father, not knowing it's his father, and sleeps with his mother, not knowing it's his mother. This is the nature that Freud saw in every young boy. The desire for the opposite sex, and hatred for the same sex. Now this is also mirrored with Jung and his view of women, the Electra complex, which is from Aeschylus's tragedy about Electra. So, in that we see the identical gender conflict between father, mother, and daughter. The daughter who desires the father and despises the mother. So, to break this down into a very clear way of seeing memes, we have to see it as a triad of desire, which is the self-insert, the child, the object of desire, which is the parent of the opposite gender, and the prohibitive factor, which is the father. So, we can see this very clearly in a lot of different meme formats. There is, because it is a aspect of life that's eternal. We will never get what we want. And even if we did get what we want, it would still be tragic and terrible.
No one in the
This
world
is
ever
mirrored
gets what they
in the
want, and
cards
that's
that I've
beautiful.
chosen.
Everyone dies
The
frustrated and
magical
sad, and that's
triad
beautiful.
of Mercury, sulfur, and salt,
Gosh.
which retains the
What a way to
character
look at
of
it.
androgynous child in Mercury, the feminine salt, and the masculine sulfur.
Huh.
This triad and this nature of desire will repeat endlessly. So of course we would see them in many of the memes that become popular. Because, just as tarot cards, just as Freud himself, just as the tragedies of ancient Greece, we are all experiencing the same relations of desire. So, to supplement the concept of the Oedipus complex and the nature of sexual desires for parents, I thought I would introduce Jung and his book Ion, in which he very clearly talks about the nature of desire and the nature of our parents in a way that I think is more honest than Freud about what a parent is. So, this is where the fallacy of the veiled one comes in. The fallacy, which stems from Eubilides, the Megarian, runs, "Can you recognize your father? Yes. Can you recognize this veiled one? No. This veiled one is your father. Hence, you can recognize your father and not recognize him." What Jung is telling us here is that the image that we have of our parents is not even close to the reality of that person. Our true father and our true mother are totally alien to us. We are only in relation with psychological projections that have the appearance of our parents, that say what our parents say, which is why we are so often confused, disappointed, and enraged with the way that we are treated and the way that they communicate with us. Because we have expectations that are for dreams, illusions, and fantasies, and not the real people that we know. So, ultimately, the nature of Oedipal memes is about illusion, about disappointment, and a failure when we desire. Remember, memes matter.
Damn.
All right. Now that was
You very girly.
yeah. Let's not be distracted by the next one while we try to cover this.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry. Just
So,
wasn't expecting.
oh, don't no need to say sorry. It's all good. But but this moves into more grounded psychological topics, that being the relationship of child to parent, and how, well, as was illustrated actually quite beautifully by that metaphor with Star Wars, Luke and Darth Vader, the fact that that our parents in our mind are projections uh, of our ideas of them, uh, that which is actually something that Lucas probably understood, because Lucas, of course, was very much into the hero's journey when writing Star Wars. With yeah, I can see Retsu blurring out. Here, let's see. Let's see. Is it the color key?
I'm phasing out of existence.
Deep fried lobster.
No, nod for eat.
You
Nod
gotta
for
increase your quality, or gonna be deep fried on the show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do on my end, or?
I'd probably say some is VTube Studio. I think it's
VTube?
OBS is
It's
getting it through the
fine, guys.
browser source,
They're
so
fine.
maybe reload the tab with OBS Ninja.
Okay. I can try
Alright.
that. So, refresh. We'll see what happens. VTube. That should work. Is it working?
I think it needs to. I'm waiting for it to come back on my end. Change the world, Retsuo. Goodbye. Alright. You're back, but you're still deep fried. Also, you might want to turn off the browser audio.
Oh shoot! Sorry. Oh, everything got reset. Okay, it should be fine now. Sorry, fellas.
Thematically aligned.
I don't.
Thematically aligned scuff aside. Yeah, so Lucas read Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, which of course borrows a lot from Jung, it being an archetypal story. So he was also familiar with Jung and Jung's idea of the veiled one, probably, which probably influenced Vader. But you can see in that how Vader becomes a very Oedipal figure for Luke, in that it is this, tyrannical image of the father, but he's unconscious of it, much like Oedipus Rex.
I never knew that Star Wars was influenced that way. So learning that is actually kind of eye-opening, and it really, really does make sense when you put it that way. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know Lucas wanted Star Wars to be a mythical, archetypal story that could become something for a modern age. He deliberately tried to pull on he deliberately tried to create a modern myth to create something that would have lasting staying power. And so, by understanding these concepts, he created, well, Star Wars to great success.
Yeah, paid off really well for him, and now it's like a global entertainment that a lot of people like.
Well, now with all this in mind, do you see I know you haven't read Oedipus Rex in a long time, probably because it was, English class high school. Uh, what
Hmm.
do you now? How does this change your view of the story now that the gods, the tyranny of the gods, becomes almost uh, almost an unconscious projection uh, of his father, and now is he unconsciously acting out the Oedipus complex, even though he doesn't know these people are his father and mother?
Gosh, I mean, yeah, it kind of changes it to where it does seem like it's his unconscious feelings, and I actually kind of relate because I was thinking about it through the video. I'm like, I actually get along with my father better than I do with my mother, but I always like account it to the fact that whenever my mom comes home, she's always, complaining about like uh everything. But it might just is it like Freud's, sorry, Freud's psychology stuff coming into play. It made me think about that, it's like, wow, this stuff it might just be like actually applicable to everyday life. But yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I was
Um,
I was thinking about it. And it's like
definitely
if I
changed
were to
my
ask my
outlook.
sister, she would probably say that my mother is way too overbearing and my father is the lax one. But if I was asked, I would say my
Yeah.
father is an absolute tyrant, and my mother's the lax one that I can get away with stuff with. Uh, so it's funny how
Hmm.
our parents are our constructed images of them to us.
But I also wonder, do parents themselves like act out like would a mother act differently to a daughter than she would to a son, right? Like so would that does that also affect it? Because usually mothers they when they see their sons, they're like, "Ah yeah, let boys be boys." Right? But fathers they have that thing where it's like, "Oh, I want my son to grow up and like a be a man." So maybe does that also affect those kind of things, right? So it's like a two-way street and not just the son or daughters like looking at their parents a certain way, you know?
Well,
If
well,
my
yeah.
message is
Do
getting
we try
across.
to be? It's how we be role models to our children. I think is the question of
Yeah.
it. And in that, are we acting
Hmm.
out our parents when we try to be role models to our children? Because that comes into the ways that we
Hmm.
hear that, of course, sometimes abuse becomes cyclical, or in the same way, a family with very good parents and very good kids. Sometimes you'll see generations later. It seems like they're still doing pretty well.
Hmm. Yeah. It's definitely affects how the children are brought up and stuff like that. But then again, there are always the cases that don't really match that. I've seen good parents who good family, but then the kids turn up kind of questionable, and then bad families where the kids turn out good. So um, that's the thing with human nature. It's like you can't
Yeah,
really
it's
predict it
it's very
sometimes.
hard.
For sure, for sure.
Well, on to the next one. This video,
Oh
just feel
boy,
free to laugh at all of this.
excited for it. Oh no. Oh.
Now
Oh.
that's some good gamer girl pee.
I can't.
Hydrate,
Hello,
everybody.
this is Meme Analysis, and today we're going to be talking about gamer girl pee, a meme that has its origins in the sexuality of the gamer, that strange race that runs beside our own.
Humor.
A race that somehow continuously reproduces and yet is incapable of ever achieving its idolized coochie. And so, what they desire is the gamer girl, the impossible beauty, the woman nearly identical to them, but with coochie. They desire even her lowest excrement, her lowest waste, gamer girl pee. But this is in fact related to an older meme, a meme that predicts perfectly the current form. And that meme is gamers eat bees. Now, bees are a classic symbol of femininity. You can see it, in fact, on the coat of the Empress card, and then later on the lovers and on art, as each of those queens, all women are queens, retain that bee symbolism as the nature of femininity. In both memes, we can see that gamers have no interest in the reality of women, no interest in the legitimate nature of a relationship. Their desire is solely consumption of the feminine. Their sexuality is one that devours. It is not one that embraces or romances or even achieves and conquers. There is something deeply animalistic about it. The devouring of femininity. That is the sexuality of a gamer. These memes are representative of that fact. The unreachable gamer girl coochie is quite similar to the holy grail of medieval men. And what is the great, curing, fulfilling water that lies inside of the gamer's grail? Gamer girl pee. And what is this gamer girl pee? It is the honey that is the product of the bees that they ate. That divine nectar of feminine sexuality. To back this up, I would show you some of Jung's writing on bee symbolism. Let's see. A fantasy of the chthonic mother in the shape of the woman of the bees from Bacon's In the Border Country. The path led to a tiny hut of the same color as 4 great trees that stood about it. Its door hung wide open, and in the middle of it, on a low stool, there sat an old woman wrapped in a long cloak, looking kindly at her. The hut was filled with the steady humming of bees. In the corner of the hut there was a deep cold spring in which a white moon and little stars were reflected. The old woman exhorted the heroine to remember the duties of a woman's life. In tantric yoga, an indistinct hum of swarms of love-mad bees proceeds from the slumbering Shakti, the dancer who dissolves into a swarm of bees. Bees are also, as an allegory, connected with Mary, as the text for the consecration of the Easter candle shows. If that doesn't show you how bees are intrinsically feminine, I'm not sure what will. Remember, memes matter.
Perhaps I should have gotten us drunk before we went into this.
Oh my gosh,
Uh,
dude, being God.
Impressions.
I totally get what I agree with it. I totally agree with it actually. You know, the desire for gamer girl pee is like this whole like guys wanting a girl that's relatable. Like I kind of get it. I kind of get it.
You're starting to get it.
That's what I feel. Dude, my brain is expanding. It's like growing larger by the second.
The galaxy is forming in
Um,
the brain.
honestly, but I think it's kind of similar to like how there's a bunch of guys who like tomboy, you know, the tomboy GF. And that's the same premise is that they want a girl who's more relatable, you know?
Yeah, he actually did a video on
Yeah.
that in the same vein. A girl who's
Really?
relatable, or on the contrary, wanting what one is not. The introverted shut-in wanting a domineering, extroverted, very outsidesy girl because they desire the world.
Mm. Yeah, so both of those definitely do apply, you know. It's so interesting. You can usually tell a lot about somebody, I think, by their taste in women or men or whatever, right? Like you can do some psychoanalyzing. using that kind of information usually.
I would say it's a
uh,
lot of what someone is, but also what they are not, if that makes any sense.
hmm because I think the best usually you get along with somebody who has enough similarities that you can relate to them and talk about things and enjoy things, but then you get to also experience new things that you get like a fresh perspective on things or get introduced to new things, right? So like a balance of both is good, and I guess you kind of get that with a tomboy GF depending on who you are, right? But yeah, really interesting.
Yeah,
Wow, that came in
this
grumpy.
plays, though it hasn't been brought up yet, this plays into Jung's idea of the anima and animus. That being that within somebody is the uh, within somebody's self is the part of them that is repressed on the basis that it is the psychology of the opposite sex, essentially. Uh, so for men, that's the
Hmm.
anima. For women, that's the animus. And that this is projected onto other people in a way that creates love at first sight. We want we want somebody.
Oh.
It's like why out of say all the beautiful or attractive people is that person the one that immediately makes your heart throb? It is because it's the one
Hmm.
that you basically want to live out that part of yourself that you can't recognize with, and that a fulfilling the what is the
Oh.
core of romance is the dance of anima and animus. These people complementing each other and making each other whole in ways that they could not on their lonesome.
Huh. Huh. Makes a lot of sense actually, and it does perfectly tie into this whole thing. Oh my gosh,
And this is why they
psychology,
should
man.
teach young in psych class.
Definitely, because he's referencing Young in like all of his videos, or so far at least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, gosh.
Jung talked a
It just makes
bunch
me
about the symbols of humanity, which of course we have across cultures we see recurring stories, gods, patterns of behavior, uh, and even prescribed qualities to animals, to plants, to locations, etc. And that gives credence to a collective unconscious of symbols, a universal language like memes.
Mm. Yeah, because memes, exactly, and because it's kind of like how like usually whenever you go to a foreign country and you can't speak the language, there's those like symbols or gestures that you can do that are basically understood worldwide, right? Like the nodding and the shaking of the head and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's actually really neat. And it also made me think of like the cope and seethe meme and how I guess you could maybe dive deep into into that.
Well, which
Yeah.
specific variation of the cope and seethe meme are we talking about? Are we talking about the oxygen mask or the or like the just point cope seethe?
Yeah, I think I'm just talking about the general cope and seethe, but the oxygen mask, that's something else as well. That's a whole nother topic to go on to.
Take your
Man,
copium.
never knew I never knew memes could get so deep.
Oh
Goodness,
man,
eye opening.
I think I'm gonna
This
unplug
series is
this
very eye opening.
this sleep motion if it's just gonna keep spazzing out. There we go. Next up, we move on to FBI Man.
Yeah, man.
Hello, this is Meme Analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the FBI Man, a character who texts the user of a phone, often with a warning or sometimes with advice or even help. Sometimes he's in shock at what the user is doing. So, the origin of this meme can be seen in text from Dad, specifically like, why the f you crying so loud? Or, um, what are you doing down there? Etc. Or, why is there moaning coming out of the Alexa? There's memes like that where The father plays the role of one aware of the emotional state of the user of the phone. So, this meme has also evolved. We have examples with Harvard, for example. It's you want a scholarship after one texts something particularly intelligent or woke, and so on. You have the Illuminati after one has seen something they shouldn't have. You have a wide variety of prohibitive, paternalistic, omniscient viewers capable of texting you without, I think, you being able to text them. There is never a response. There is never an open chat. There is always the direct message, the notification coming from this higher power. Analysis. The FBI man is God, omniscient, omnipresent, capable of knowing how you are feeling, what you are thinking, and when it's happening, such that he is able to respond to it, to influence it, to direct you. This is a direct response to the death of God. The death of God follows that the state replaces God. Coldly lieth the state. I am the people. And thus, the state is represented by people that look like this. Men in suits. Spooks. People that are cold, blank slates to be projected onto. Angels to some and demons to others. Just as the superego, just as God. The sum of cultural prejudices is very kind to those who do what it wants, and very bad to those who don't do what it wants, which is why in FBI man memes occasionally he will chide you for a girl that you are interested in, how you are much too ugly and strange to be able to get with her, or if you look up something that it didn't want, it will tell you. It'll say, be careful. It's never directly aggressive. It is never a direct threat. It is always this paternalistic, superego judgment. It is this judgment that comes from this other force, represented by God, by angels, and of course now, most accurately, by the FBI. Remember, memes matter.
All right, impressions.
Yeah, makes sense to me. It makes sense
Yeah.
to me. And it also what Kami said, I wish my FBI agent would talk to me. I think that it can also be kind of people wanting to know that somebody's there, which coincides with the whole um analogy with God, or it's just like loneliness, it's always nice to get a message from somebody, knowing that somebody's there and watching over you and guiding you.
And
And
of
so I
course,
think that's another
who is
thing
that
that,
person to be but your parents?
yeah, your parents, or I guess this FBI man,
And this goes
So,
into when people
yeah.
feel unsatisfied with their family, they may look for a family elsewhere. And sometimes they'll find
Mm-hmm.
it in a group, but other times they'll find it through a completely parasocial relationship. The state
Man.
the father, a a girl who you simp for very hard online, knowing you're not going to get anything back because it can be motherly. That can be they're looking over you,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's the
Mm-hmm.
lack of communication or actual interaction that is desired because it can help the fantasy go along. Uh,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, this
Um,
is the concept of devouring mothers and fathers, which state father the state. We must work hard for the fatherland. The country above all,
mhm.
or uh, the spider's web. It's actually something we see in nature. Parents
Ooh.
that will either kill some of their children or eat some of their children for energy, from spiders to chinchillas, whatever. That there's this symbol of of, basically a parent who one dedicates themselves to fully to to have a semblance of some kind of interaction relationship, but it's not particularly good for you.
But I think it's just in human nature, to crave that sort of affection, whether it be through an actual person or an online person. There was that study on the monkey where I think they took away the mother, right? And they gave it like a robot mother, but even that, like it clung onto it and it saw it as a mother. It's just I think, sometimes it's in your nature to just grasp onto anything that has that resemblance, right? Like you
Yeah, a
said.
wire and blankets
And it
monkey.
yeah, whatever works, right? Because when you're desperate for it, then you're desperate for it, and you'll take whatever you can get. Like beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Mhm.
It's one way to look at it.
All right, so you ready to get started?
Yeah, in a second. But look at this. This is
I'll actually pause this for a moment because, yes, VTubers, in a way, do fulfill this need, Nanase Kane. And the internet in general, if we think about it, we've had a generation that grew up on the internet where they'll turn to the internet if they have social difficulties in real life or with their family or whatever. And in much the same way, older generations grew up on cartoons and TV shows. That has become the for this generation, and now they're the ones that are the biggest consumers of the internet. The Zoomers.
Zoomies.
the
Zoom.
hottest girl I've ever seen. Hello, this is Meme Analysis. Today we're going to be talking about the ideal GF meme, a meme that is based on templates, blank slates, onto which each internet person can put their own ideal girlfriend onto. You have various, you have INFP girlfriend, robot girlfriend, ghost girlfriend, non-existent girlfriend, enabler girlfriend, and so on.
Damn.
We have all these different types of ideal girlfriends. But they all have something in common. They are essentially non-existent, insubstantial. Now, I will relate this to waifus. Waifus are the product of an anime addiction, a great desire and love for an anime character. And yet, they have a bit more substance because there are characteristics that are objectively theirs. You can watch the show and you can obtain a character from them. But the ideal GF, there's nothing. It is an entirely projected character. So, the waifu is an anima projection. The anima is the perfect archetypal image of the feminine, and she's able to adapt herself. A mother, a sister, a lover, a girlfriend. And this is very important because there is usually only one anima projection, one that is very strong in a man's life. That role, recently, because of the internet, has been increasingly taken up by fictional characters, fictional women. And a good way to look at this is how the internet drags out projections. How the ideal girlfriend and how every other blank slate meme allows us to project afresh onto an image. Every meme is like this. Every meme that is changed by another user, that grows and evolves, each one has been projected upon. Each one was a vessel. But this meme is distinctly meant to be a vessel. The history of the anima. In the past, the anima was projected onto primarily religious figures and religious symbols. A very clear one is Mother Mary, the ideal Mother of God, the perfect woman. Jung connects this to the witch's cauldron, which is another pure feminine vessel, and thus evolved into the Holy Grail and the pitcher of the Gnostics, the winged pitcher. So all of these are feminine symbols that receive the anima in relation to how they devalue real, objective women. Now, it's interesting because we, a scientific culture who prides ourselves on materialism, have now fallen again into old religious and Gnostic traps of projecting our ideal women into the ether, into nothing. Techno-neuroses. So one might wonder how we fell again into projecting feminine ideals into memes rather than into religious symbols. How it is that our nature is always stuck around. Now, I think it's quite simple, that the internet is feminine. We can tell this because the matrix is feminine, mater, and in many video games and many pieces of fiction, AI, embodiments of the internet, are always feminine. Shodan, GLaDOS, and so on. So, why is it that users are masculine? It's because they retain anonymity. They retain phallic power of expression. It's well known that anybody that claims to be a woman is met with tits or GTFO, because one assumes identity in a place that is meant to be entirely anonymous, entirely masculine. So, from there, we have to question, what feminine acts does the internet do? I think that the internet is a great womb, an incubator. And what does it incubate? It incubates lost people. And what does it incubate in them? What are they able to grow into? Deeply complex individuals. Individuals with vast techno-neuroses. Neuroses derived almost entirely from internet structure. A terrace on which the ivy of neuroses grow. A technostructure. So how is it that we'll be able to deal with these? Meme analysis. We have to be able to understand these structures that neuroses are built upon. The anima has a home, and it's in electricity, in the internet. Remember, memes matter.
I wasn't expecting that last part with the internet being feminine overall, because I expected, like the part, the beginning where it's like, it's a projection, not, but that
But the
last part,
internet, well, the
yeah.
internet is the spider's web, is it not? Even the way we describe it.
It is. It is a spider's. Wow. Wow. Dude.
We're going deep.
I'm realizing things. I'm realizing. This is the day of realizing. Oh gosh. But it's actually funny because we talk about this because I know that there was a maybe a small trend of VTubers kind of making GF filling out those templates themselves, you know. So it's kind of funny that this
Yeah.
pops up here.
And in a yeah, in a way, it's the same kind of well, I wouldn't say as much. It's like having a celebrity, but it's, the real streamer has problems, issues. They're a real person, and the VTuber, they put on the mask, they become the image, and there's detachment. It's safer, uh, which is good for the person doing it. It has privacy, and they can be the person that they want to. It can be a wish fulfillment, but it can also be wish fulfillment for the viewership. So there's a symbiotic relationship there.
Definitely. But then it can also turn bad to where,
Yeah.
some viewers might get a little bit too attached, or maybe some streamers themselves get way too attached to a character and get way too into it, and then that ends up with them getting into situations that might be dangerous, or, just unpleasant situations overall. Parasocial parasocial relationships like that are very
Yeah. Thankfully, we
uh
haven't
in
had
line.
any VTubers getting killed while doing a YouTube prank yet. Mostly because that's outside of the
Ah, yeah, that's
profession.
true.
That would be an idea of someone falling way too far into the mask, you know, being caught
Mhm.
up with what they're expected to be, and that positive feedback loop until
Yeah,
they do something really really dumb where it's like, why would you ever do that for 10,000 views a video?
true, true. And it's already sad to know that, there I see posts of some people, like they spend too much money into this profession, and they're too much time and effort, that they're neglecting in real life responsibilities. But I guess you don't even need to be a VTuber to do those things, you
Mm-hmm.
know. You can always just get stuck browsing Twitter for too long and stuff, that you forget to eat, or you forget to do assignments or documents for your work, stuff
Yeah, we
like
can
that.
put too much into false relationships like Twitter, or art can also be very devouring as well.
Yeah,
The
for
starving
sure,
artist
for
is
sure.
is is true for a reason
Mhm.
because I think a good metaphor for art would probably be Crowley's, where he talks about he compares art to the idea of sacrifice. Uh, animal sacrifices, or even in the extreme cases, child sacrifice. You're dedicating a bunch of time,
Mm.
uh, effort, and blood and sweat to creation. And hey, what's up? I have my head in my tablet, and I've forgotten to eat. Yeah, you're dedicating
A very
a
common
lot to
thing.
this, and it becomes a consumed thing. And if you compare that to the ancient times, we have cultures that we must, if you've raised this lamb or this kid or this goat or whatever, you must now sacrifice it on the altar, and that creative energy goes to something else. And like,
Mhm.
if you think of creative energy as a resource, it's like, why do artists live there, like, will like coop themselves up and like cut themselves off and like become in love with their art? Well, it's like they are engendering something with their art. That is their child. That's where the creative energy
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
If
that's
you need
true.
some specific outcome, some basic magic. If you're a peasant raising animals, is to take an animal that you've raised and put a lot of energy into, and free that energy up for something else. And bonjour,
Mhm.
Hecate. Thank you for uh, thank you for coming in. What were you doing with your viewers? We are currently on a kind of esoteric quest to talk and discuss memes and the like.
Mhm, mhm. Welcome, Raiders.
Welcome.
Hope you guys enjoyed your stream. Welcome, welcome. It's been really fun so far, and I think some people are learning things. I'm learning things,
Brain expansion
and
moments all
things.
around.
Literally, we're expanding our brains. And it's like what I say, you basically learn something every day, especially if you put yourself out there and talk to people, that maybe new people experience something new that you don't usually do. You always learn something. And that's the beauty of life, or one of the beauties of life.
Oh, here we go. Here's my message to Raiders. Hello, viewer.
Hello, viewer. Um,
Alright.
but a read through of Ironheart, that sounds pretty
Ironheart.
interesting.
Choose your own adventure about medieval robots. Oh, I love the choose your own adventure books. I did so many of those as a child. Uh,
Always fun.
well,
Oh,
if your viewers are into literature, I think they'll appreciate some bits of this, because he does full quotes from Jung and Land and other authors with very nice prose. But yeah, let's get into the video.
Hello, this is Meme Analysis, and today
Hello,
we're going to be
Bob.
looking at Doge, and how he has changed through the years. The important characteristic to recognize is that Doge has acted as a transitional meme between three types of memes: relatable memes, surreal memes, and ironic memes. He has been a middle ground and led to these changes. The very first memes were usually pictures of animals in very funny situations, odd situations, and then one of the major growths, one of the major evolutions, is that text and fonts, specifically impact font, began to be a presence in these memes. The dialogue of the characters, these animals began to say things. Consider the eternal and very classic "I can has cheeseburger." That's an ancient meme. These memes fall into the relatable category. That's because everybody knows what it's like to have pets. Everybody,
I
can
feel
find
like
humor
an
in animals in funny situations.
I'm a zoomy,
And
zoomy
then the
zoomer.
introduction of the texts, it's often, very
Such a throwback.
basic humor. Things that a child could understand, things that a child enjoyed. Just to give a little personal anecdote, I remember one of my aunts had actually printed out by hand lolcats and put them in a binder and would show them to other older people in the family. There was this
That's cute.
relatable and very funny thing about it. Everybody could laugh at it. And so this leads to advice animals. Advice animals for a long time were the very standard meme. It's usually a picture of an animal or a picture of a character and top text and bottom text. Perhaps we'll do a video on bottom text becoming a meme later, as I will show you how that will come back into the stream, just like Doge does. So, you have the top and the bottom, and they tell a joke together. Sometimes the joke is even, the joke is on the top and the punchline's on the bottom. Very important. There was a structure, a very well-defined structure to advice animals. And then, of course, Doge happened. He, I believe, is the first bridge from classical, relatable memes into surreal memes. He is very much a piece of modernist literature in response to the classical advice animal. No longer is the font on the top and the bottom. The font is all over. Such wow, so much, etc. It's kind of the stream of conscious. There's no stratification of the words. In fact, you don't even need to read it in an order. It's very, very deeply modernist in that sense, that it is subverting classical tropes and making a more deeply expressive meme. And that led to a whole lot of copycat memes where, again, the format has been freed up. No longer are we kind of bound to the advice animal format. Memes became much looser. A lot more could become a meme. And so for a while, Doge was, just that Doge, just that image. But then he comes again, his second coming, and it is to bridge surreal memes, which became extraordinarily popular for a while, and into ironic memes. Memes that are now meta, making fun of older memes, making fun of old meme formats, laughing at the whole situation. And oftentimes a much more mean meta. And how is it that Doge comes back? It is in the guise of an advice animal. Top text and bottom text in impact font. So already we are given the old form, the old structure. And what happens in it? Horrible, disturbing situations. we talked about this in our first video about the Queen and how Doge is kind of transcending time in the memes, that he is a soldier in Vietnam, or the Queen that was going to die, and so on. He is in these horrible situations. No longer is the advice animal kind of a joking, trivial, a sensible chuckle. Now these memes are kind of horrible, disturbing, torturous memes. Doge is kind of actively being tortured. That is the real signifier of neo-Doge memes. That ironic memes have no respect for advice animals, no respect for surreal memes. Doge is now a toy to be tortured. Ultimately, this is the postmodern meme. The meme that not only transcends classical tropes, but also transcends the modernist tropes of surreal memes. It's important to look at the way that memes change. And Doge, beyond synchronistic, traveling through the past and the future in his own memes, he has acted throughout time in reality as well, by acting as a bridge between aeons of memes. Remember, memes matter.
So, in that was a more specifically focused episode on just exploring the change in the usage of a meme and how it mirrors real life change in ideas, from classical to modernist to postmodernist. The original, the subversion, and then the subversion of the subversion, and return to the original in some ways. And I just find that interesting because, memes are something we like to think we don't think too much about. But we've had the same change in memes that we've had with much more serious ideas in terms of reevaluation, evolution, and so forth. Just like Retsuo is currently being deep fried. Come out as nice lobster nuggets by the end of this stream.
Evolution of memes and evolution of lobster.
The evolution, it started.
It's such a throwback.
Insert random image here.
Oh gosh, man. I mean, like, how long ago was Doge even? Was that like 10 years ago or something? I mean, like, I feel like time has really flown.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time. And Infinite Nuclear brought up a good point. Dogecoins. We have tied value to this meme. We have tied value. So the life and well-being and survival of this meme now has currency to it. It is an idea with value. Much like we have many ideas with value in the world. Fiat money, governments, nations, governments, laws, corporations. These are all ideas with lots and lots of value that survive on how people see their idea.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it could also be that, like, people, usually crypto and stock markets and stuff like that are seen more so tied with, the men in suits, the white collars. And I guess it's people wanting to make it more relatable, like, I want to get into this too. I want to be able to, me, the average Joe, I want to be able to partake in stock market stuff and crypto stuff, right? So I guess there's also that part of it.
And of course, well. meme, and crypto people have never done anything significant to influence the stock market, like, say, crashing it a few months ago, and in a convergence of trying to exert the power of memes over reality. That was basically saying our memes are better than yours. We can instill better confidence in people than you can with your ideas.
Yeah, and that actually kind of reminds me of, I'm not sure if I guess many of you will know of it, but the old Anon, the old Anonymous, which has also evolved in a way, because I think all the original NN members were either arrested or they were recruited or something. So that has also evolved, they played a major part in government and political stuff. I
Well,
think,
yeah,
if I
Anonymous
remember correctly.
went from the faceless guy with no mask to a very coordinated, utilitarian one. The guy with a mask. He's not the Green Man anymore. And actually, the Green Man has symbolism in itself. That will be covered by a video
Yeah,
on this. Uh, to a guy with a mask who does things. It's a coordinated effort. And then finally, there's the postmodern deconstruction of the modernist ideal. It is not the heroic masked warrior. It is the neckbeard. We are anonymous. We will come for you. And it's like, dude, you don't even know what goat security is. Get the fuck out of here.
True, true. I mean, like there's a new Anonymous, and like I think like what they did in like the recent events were nothing, absolutely
Nothing.
nothing compared to what the old Anonymous did. So it's just kind of like children picking up this really grand idea, this grand
Yeah.
old group, and trying to imitate to their best of abilities, but they can't, you know, because they're just playing pretend at that point. I think.
I don't know how to spell cybersecurity, but I like it. I like that spelling of cybersecurity. Uber
It's like a cool way
solidarity.
of spelling it.
Uh, yeah, the new Anonymous sucks.
New Anonymous. So very, very questionable talents in a new Anonymous. It
Though,
felt more like a publicity stunt.
yeah, if I remember, a lot of people have, in hindsight, reacted very badly to the founding events of Anonymous, saying that the operation against Scientology was basically the beginning of the end. That it publicized it, it modernized it, and that once it was modernized, then it opened up to power struggle. It was no longer, you know, our Cosa Nostra bullshit anime thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just people sometimes are afraid of change, and people especially don't want to get into serious topics, because usually the internet, you're trying to escape all this in real life bullshit, right? So you go to the internet to chillax, to relax, and to ship post, and then you go to your favorite, basket weaving forum, and then you find these dudes like trying to take down a government or Scientology, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So maybe that's why, a fear of the new, or fear of
Yeah,
something that
and
might
and
be
that connects
seen
to an
as
idea that I've
unorthodox.
held for a long time, which is that in many ways modernity can be seen as the beginning of the end. Once you've moved
Mhm.
off the classical and said we need to change things, you're going to be changing things forever. Uh, and so
Mhm.
even with memes and with people, there's the idea of you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. You'll be and
Yeah.
with a joke with a meme. This is you either have your moment in the spotlight or you find yourself being used by advertisers in a really cringely way, and now no one can, you know,
Mhm.
and now it's like, please let it die. I no longer want to see this. And sometimes it can be a real nuisance
Mhm.
sticking around, like Among Us, which is just meme terrorism, I would say.
Yeah, Among Us is a blight to our society, in my opinion. But yeah, it's just interesting how in depth all these memes and jokes are once you actually look into it and think about it for more than 2 seconds. Because usually memes you look at it for like a second, maybe a video that's like a minute long, and you laugh and then you go about your day, you forget about it. But then when you really start thinking about it, you're like, ah, shit. I'm now having existential dread or something.
Memes, son,
Uh,
the DNA of the soul. Yeah,
uh,
Kojima was really
oh, and
ahead on all of this. I do find
mhm.
the final MGS2 conversation to be very, 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 very descriptive of our current situation, of how we're trying to, of how we're trying to creating context and whose ideas get to flourish and spread, because the internet is so powerful, it is so open, and there's so much that people can push with it into public consciousness.
I'm not sure. Have you watched Serial Experiments Lane? I haven't finished it, but you might want to take a look into it if you
I
haven't,
have
because it
not,
deals
but I
with
do want to look
internet
into
stuff.
it because that's actually referenced. It is
Yeah.
referenced in the series where it says it's called "One of the few brilliant anime," but I having seen clips from it, all the stuff about the Wired and about networks it's like, and actually I will compare it to something I read a very very long time ago called Neuromancer, which is the predecessor
Oh.
to modern cyberpunk. And I don't think I don't remember if it deals with modification, but what it really deals with is fast networks of information, the neural network of
Oh.
humanity, a brain we have created that we are now all feeding into. But I honestly can't remember anything
Mm.
else because I was like 10 and my dad was like, look, read Neuromancer, it'll be very cool. But yeah, I know that it had a very big influence on Blade Runner, which I love.
Blade Runner. Oh
Mm.
man, I'll have to check it out too.
You haven't
Gosh,
watched Blade Runner?
Blade Runner. No, no, no. I meant like the thing that
Oh,
Neuromancer. Uh, no, I watched Blade Runner like a couple times. It's good. It's good. Not the original one though. I watched the new one.
ah, let me. Someone's requesting a shout
Oh,
out for
and
you. Creamy lobster
okay, and Fred. I'm glad
risotto.
you want to follow me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. Go follow Retsuo. Wonderful, wonderful streams.
I'm just your everyday lobster.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call a short BRB break. Let's reconvene at 42, uh, because I just need
Okay.
to get up and do stuff. So
Yeah, I need to get water as well.
yeah.
Good timing.
And we are back.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Hope you didn't miss us. Oh, and you're less deep fried now. That's very interesting.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good.
Let's
Maybe
not
it's just
jinx it.
OBS acting up or something. Yeah.
Here. Maybe open up a good few YouTube tabs or something. No. Other Twitch tabs.
Oh my god, Twitch tabs.
Two of my
Man.
favorite streamers are streaming. I'm gonna go switch between their streams.
Yeah. Brah. Oh god.
All right. Well, now we're on to. I'm sorry, John.
Oh boy.
Annoying background birds. Those
Hello.
are my favorite
This
characters
is me,
too.
Nemesis.
On my
Today we're going to be
show.
looking at Garfield.
See if they're
Cute.
The
outside
scary
right now.
Garfield that is becoming popular in memes. We're going to take a look at his origins, some of the traits of the meme and what they mean, and ultimately the implications for the world. So, if you'll stick with us, let's have a look. In the beginning, we start out with Garfield as merely his incarnation from The Funnies by Jim Davis. They are very dry and bland and boring, very unfunny. And as with a lot of the funny paper characters, they are very slow comics with kind of very weak punchlines. They have to be very boring and vague because, they're meant for the papers. They're meant for everybody. So, of course, this led to parodies. Some of the important early ones are Dilbert 3 by C. Boyer D. One of the great pieces that transgresses the meaning of the comic itself. It takes it to an extreme. And of course we get the same with Garfield, with Garfield by Pilot Red Sun, which kind of just parodies the usual dialogue in a Garfield comic. And then we have one that I think is particularly important and led directly to this meme, which is Lasagna Cat, which has been going on for like 11 years. And they would just take a panel, take a strip, and
really
recreate
enjoy Garfield.
and laugh at it,
Garfield
reenact
is nice.
it, make it very funny, add music,
Go check
all
out
kinds of stuff.
RP
But
for
they had a hiatus for a long
Garfield quote readings.
time. And upon returning,
as well as
they had this
fanfiction.
fantastic, strange,
That sounds pretty good.
almost like 2-hour long episode
It's wonderful.
where they had asked they'd asked the audience about their number of sex partners. But ultimately it ends with kind of a revelation about who Garfield is, who John Arbuckle is, what is their relationship. And it's one that's extremely frightening, extremely dark. I won't spoil it any further. You should go watch it. It's the last 15 minutes of the Lasagna Cat special movie. But I think that this type of parody is kind of just the natural course that any vapid, stupid, boring character is going to get. Especially now that memes are getting so fast. If there's a stupid character, they will be given a dark, serious meme. The meme itself. I think that Garfield functions as a symbol of accelerating capitalism, a concept espoused by Nick Land, where he essentially says that in the past there had always been a drive that was moving humanity ahead. But only recently, only through the expressions of technology and through the vast advances of consumerism, were we getting to a point where reality itself was accelerating very fast, affecting itself from the future in that rhizomatic sense, beyond time and space, without center, without bottom and top. And of course, we can see that just in the imagery of the monstrous Garfield. He is rhizomatic. But just as with capitalism, we can't really see into its true face, usually. They hide behind logos, behind characters, and Garfield is an avatar in that way. And behind him, just beneath the surface, behind that thin veneer of fur and an amusing face, there is an ungodly beast, ever expanding, all powerful. And it speaks through this form. And who is the slave? Who is the servant? John Arbuckle. He lives at the behest of this godlike force, this demoniac force, which determines everything in his life. When we buy things, when we buy little tools and phones and so on, they are shown as kind of, oh, if you buy this, it'll make your life easier. It will help you live to the fullest and so on. This is the way that John Arbuckle is with his cat, with his pet. Have fun with the pet, enjoy the company of a pet, and so on. But in this meme, we see the reality of consumerism, the reality of the Oedipal dynamic with a pet, which is that which we own, in the end, owns us. So Garfield and capitalism itself
Merci beaucoup, ma nouvelle
ultimately
cheese
are controlling the consumer. No matter how much the consumer believes that they could enjoy or could improve their life through the purchase is in control. The product is in control. So what is it that this horrible, perverted, disgusting Garfield wants? He wants to consume. He consumes and consumes and consumes. He eats lasagna, but also his hunger is beyond lasagna. He eats everything. But also, we do get a very clear look at how Garfield is the symbol of enjoyable capitalism, enjoyable consumerism. He hates Mondays. He wants just pleasure. He wants to be rid of these kind of displeasant shackles unless he is the one who puts them on. Garfield, enjoyment, that is what is in control of suffering. Not these responsibilities, not these kind of orderly way. Enjoyment and the future of capitalism is chaos. Vast, ever-expanding, ever-repeating chaos. So, just to expand even a bit more on the connection with capitalism, we have, oftentimes, John Arbuckle attempting to escape. He will kill himself, or will try to leave the house and so on. But in those moments, we find that Garfield is already in control. He controls reality itself. He's a reality warper. He's completely in control of John's life. And I think that this shows the truth in a quote that I believe is attributed to Zizek. I could be wrong. I've heard that it's misattributed, but either way, it's a great quote, which is that we can believe that the world will end before we believe capitalism will end. Garfield is that undying capitalism, the zombie capital that goes on beyond the death of humanity. As Land says, nothing human makes it out of the near future. What will live on? Garfield. Cartoon characters, logos. These are going to ultimately be more human than human. Reality has been given unto fiction. Memes have taken on the role of life, unlife, in that way. Implications. I find that this meme is very popular among the young left wing. And I don't think that they are conscious of why they like it. I think a lot of people are not conscious of why they like memes in general. But I think that this one is very easy to take apart. And in a way, this is the way out of the common knowledge that the left can't meme. They can meme only when it's unconscious, just like the right does. This is the product of the unconscious knowledge of capitalism. And the reason that it's so popular, I think, is because anybody who can feel the struggle of this kind of disgusting, meaningless void of consumerism, they relate to John Arbuckle. They relate to John just like all encompassed, controlled, always watched, always threatened, always being forced to enjoy by this ever-present monstrous Garfield, this consumerist capitalism that infects every part of the young person's life. It's understandable why John is always fearful, always depressed, always looking for a way out, looking for another way. But it seems as if every time he tries to get out, he is thwarted by Garfield. Thwarted again and again and again. I think another aspect of this meme is that we see a little bit of the movie They Live. We see that it is not really a bunch of people who are evil. That there are kind of a few representatives of absolute evil on Earth. Garfield is among a whole lot of other good characters, like even Nurgle, Odie, John, Liz. They're all being tortured by Garfield. In a way, this is the very opposite of the NPC or Clown World meme, in which it is the masses, it is the people that take on the role of evil, stupid, or bad. So I think we get a really kind of immediate left and right split between Garfield, which is like the few billionaires who adamantly choose to wrong the masses, and the stupid masses who are responsible for their own suffering in the NPC Clown World meme. I thought I would end it with something fun, with a little tangent about my girlfriend. Now, this was a few years ago, back when Minions were extremely popular. They're still extremely popular, unfortunately, but they were kind of at a height now, and we just were so tired of seeing them. We can't stand it. Those little tendrils of Garfield, little tendrils of capitalism expressing itself through cartoons. It's horrible, annoying, bothersome, and so on. I don't mean to offend anybody who likes Minions, but then I hope that you're not on the channel if you do. You can... I'm just kidding. We like... So what she did, she went through a bunch of old websites and eventually found the creator of the Minions, Pierre Coffin. She found his email. One of his old emails. Not from the current Illumination Studios, not from Universal or wherever it is, but his old emails.
Dude, what a sleuth.
And she sent kind of this humorous little write-up on how she wondered if he felt like Oppenheimer after creating the nuclear bomb for just how much suffering and madness he had caused directly. Just how Minions were the worst kind of plague that affected us all. And believe it or not, he responded. He said, "You are right, and I'm going to do what you suggest with my yellow suppositories." And I think maybe only like a month later, in a French interview, he said, "I think it might have been a mistake to create the Minions." So, when we look, in a way, into the heart of darkness, we see the Kurtz. We see the man at the center of it all, the monster, slightly human, who has caused all of this suffering, all of these emanating waves of consumerism. I think they regret it in the end. I think that some of them do. I'm sure that there are some people who live to produce more cute characters, who live to produce the next cute toy, the next cute thing.
Hololive.
They are like the thousands of
We're all
million
guilty.
eggs
We're all
you see at
complicit.
the end of a horror movie after they've killed one.
We're part of the system. We're part
Yeah,
of it.
it'll go on and on and on.
We're controlled
and on.
opposition.
That is the essence of Garfield.
Yeah.
Even if Garfield the cat were to
Fuck!
shed his skin, the Lovecraftian, rhizomatic
God.
beast,
VTubers, what if we made? They're
The
all gonna be
essence
corporate
of
VTubers in
capitalism,
the future.
consumerism, would remain potent. It would find another host
Can be a
and it will
VTuber
continue
registry.
to affect us.
God
to
damn it, they're
torture
gonna
us.
regulate them. What have we
How do
done?
we respond? With memes. Remember, memes matter.
Ah,
Oh my gosh. That definitely took a different turn than what I was expecting. Capitalism and all that, I was like, huh? What?
ah. So, what did you think about? Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate a bunch. Someone just came in and got me down a snack, but so
Love snacks.
what do you think about Garfield as all devouring capitalism?
I honestly, I don't know how, like, I feel like an abstract way about it. Like, I understand it, but I feel like Monster Garfield was just people getting bored and was like, how can I make the whole thing of people when they get bored, they're like, how can I do fucked up things? Like kind of like how people are fascinated with things like the live leak videos and people getting smushed in elevators and stuff like that. We have like that morbid curiosity. I feel like maybe that might be, an easier way to explain it, but I totally see the connection with capitalism as well as that, and also the Cthulhu inspiration that
The
Chan
Cthulhu
mentioned.
inspiration actually feeds into the political inspiration in a way, because Nick Land, when he was talking about capitalism and all these things, he compared it very much to be Cthulhu. What does, and I think this is actually a good point with lasagna, is it's an inhuman monster that produces things that is working through humans, has involved humans, but has its own goals separate from humans. The creation of more and more heights of technology at the cost of humanity. It's no longer an economic system that serves us. In the same way that Garfield the monster consumes all, has integrated humans into its cult, and wants to produce lasagna when it could be producing anything else. Money, paper clips, whatever. It is the monstrous elder god with intentions beyond our idea. And actually, it was this idea was reused by Curtis Yarvin and in the document which spawned the phrase "the red pill," where he talked about capitalism, modernity, and social progress are like a Cthulhu, constantly operating on humanity, where changes are happening, but not necessarily for the best. They're happening for abstract ideals, not for the actual sake of humans. And these abstract ideals being, well, abstract constructed ideals, like economic value, like quality of living, things that mean nothing, which as we know has been going up, but we don't exactly feel as though, oftentimes we don't exactly feel like, hey, my wages are stagnating, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, there's lots of pollution. What do you mean the quality of life is going up?
Yeah. And it's just like I said, it's the complex gray area where it's really up to the individual person to decide, oh, do you think this is good, do you think this is bad, because like I've met people who really don't give a shit about the environment and don't give a shit about human intervention or human what's it called, basically the consequences of what we're doing on the environment and stuff, as long as it means that we can produce, we can make money, we can make livings, better houses, better technology, stuff like that, right? Like some people think that it's absolutely a good thing, everything is a good thing, the way the world is going right now, it's fine, but other people will see it and be like, nah, not really, there's still a lot of bad things that we need to work on, right?
And I
So
think the political crisis of our times, which unfortunately this covers, but I excluded, of course, because I didn't want it to be a politics show. But I think the modern political crisis of our
mhm,
times is the obfuscation of information and knowing the like we've become so obsessed with things like economic growth or the relationships of countries or whatever that we can't, like, it's like the fact that we have so many bizarro ideologies spawned online that have no
yeah.
concern with the actual reality of things is indicative
Mhm,
of a political climate that's become all consuming. It's like we are obsessed
mhm.
with ideas that are meaningless. And I've actually stood against that. Like, I remember my friends were talking about these things, and I'm like, look, people will really follow anything at the end of the day if it gives them their bread in circuses, and if
Mhm.
it does not make their lives hell. You can dress it up in any ideology you like. You can dress it up in a contradictory ideology. You can have the most, you can have the most rigorous authoritarian centralized system, and give people pamphlets on anarchy. It's not like a it's the ideology is the means to the end, and
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the real political concerns of, like, we need livable conditions. We need we need livable conditions. We need things where we can actually continue as a society. Those outweigh any of this meaningless talk about this meaningless talk about which that and which other thing ideology wise.
Mhm. And yeah, that's like what Kami-sama said, is that you know, even if you don't like capitalism, instead of, having to hunt for our food, or, work in, make our own food and stuff like that, we are given the luxury, or maybe it's just because we live, in America, that we're given the luxury to actually be able to talk about these things and, spend
Yeah.
hours and hours of our time doing this.
In a
So
way, but we've also been
everything I
sold
think
the
has its
means
pros
by
and
which
cons.
we've also in ways also been sold the means of which we squabble over things. The very
Yeah.
product identities that now define politics are products. They're about working
Mhm.
within the system, and so thinking outside the system, I think, is to think outside the system in question is a system that needs to put energy in this ways to maintain itself. Is that a good thing? Those questions must be asked. What ideas is it gonna
Yeah.
create?
Mhm. It's just very in depth. When
Yeah,
once you start talking about politics and stuff like
yeah,
that, you
yeah.
go down like a rabbit
Oh
hole.
yeah.
And it's fun to talk about sometimes, but other times you're just like brain melt. Depends on the person. Depends on the person for sure.
Oh yeah.
But
I
this
used
does
to
remind
I
me.
used to talk about politics a lot, in part of because of where I live,
Uh,
which is a very politicized environment. But I can certainly say in
oh,
hindsight that it feels like, God, thinking back on it, it is so ridiculous. I yeah,
yeah.
I it yeah, there's a reason none of my friends are sports fans, because they dedicate too well. My real life friends from like school and stuff, I have real life friends that are not into this
Mhm.
and are sports fans. But you cannot be a sports fan and also be a politics fan. It is incompatible, and the reason why is because it's like, which are you gonna be watching on the Friday night showdown? You're not gonna be
Definitely.
you can either watch Hulk Hogan, or you can watch funny politics TV, man.
Funny time. Definitely, definitely. But I did want to say that this entire episode reminded me of I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Kimono Friends, but it's like this cutesy anime about like safari or animals turn into cute anime girls. And somebody took that idea and made it something really twisted and horrifying, where the girls are put in a hotel that like change, and each level is like a different like a common trope in horror games where you go in an elevator, you go up a level. Yeah, it's called like a Mirai Mansion, I think, or something like that. It's very good. I totally recommend it if you like the Garfield thing. Um, check it out. But it goes to show that this kind of topic is not just with Garfield, but people have explored it in other cultures. Like in Japan they have it, and in America we have the Garfield thing.
Ken
Very
Ridquiko brought up how
interesting.
sports intertwines with national alliances and with politics in South America. Argentinian Brazilians beating up fans of the opposite team with politics shirts on, or they even go to war over soccer. I mean, there was that one time. Yeah, but
Yeah. People
shock
get
value.
really into it sometimes.
I haven't watched Kimono Friends, but I thought about it because there's a lot of people who are really into it, and a lot of people who really said, oh, this is like, why would you like this? Uh, but it is kind of like, it is it is in ways like a very Western cartoon style, and I mean that in like it feels like a very collectible. These are the girls, like they're doing their, they live in their cute life in the same way you see from a Western cartoon, whereas like anime is usually considered to be more highbrow, like episodic plots and all that, and
Mhm.
so people got really put off by
Yeah.
Kimono Friends, but that's par and standard for the more merchandise obsessed U.S. cartoons.
hmm hmm And I mean, a bunch of the anime and stuff is built on how profitable and how much merch. Like Hololive, it's like how profitable each girl is. That's how they gauge how much merch they're gonna make of her and stuff like that. It's just
I
very
mean,
materialistic.
maybe it's a quantity over quality approach. I would say with Western cartoons, oftentimes, like if I remember back to my sister's big My Little Pony collection, it's like, or it was Littlest Pet Shop and then My Little Pony. It was a bunch of these characters with no,
Ah.
where it seems like she didn't have any real characteristics for them. They were just, well, beyond
hmm
superficial, uh, design wise or whatever. And they were super super cheap, and you could put them all around your dollhouse. But with an anime, well, I got my dad a Saber Lily figure because it was the only affordable one, and that was super expensive. And I can't imagine if you're a very invested Fate fan, uh, you're going very very deep into these characters, and so you're gonna probably only buy like the collectible toys of your waifus, maybe
That's
plural,
true.
and it's like, so they put a lot more investment into the single character.
hmm Definitely. But then you also see they have a little bit of the gachas, the little toy gachas where people just collect
Mhm.
them even if they don't get what they want and stuff. So, um, it's a little bit of the like what you said in a Western sphere. People getting the littlest pet shop there. That's found there too. Yet another thing of cultures kind of doing similar things to each other. But they do also have their differences, as you mentioned. For
Yeah, but
sure,
even
for
with
sure.
gotcha, it's about getting the specific character you want. That banner drops, and you got to put in
Oh, I guess.
all your
Yeah.
crystals to it to get that one character you
That-
like, or you wait a year and you try it again. Unless you want to,
That's
unless
true.
you're not a free to play, in which case, what the fuck are you doing? Uh, but like,
Honest.
I played
Just wailing.
Dragalia. I played Dragalia, and that has very very high drop rates, and so I have in every element a team of 5 stars, and as far as I know, Dragoli is the least popular gotcha.
Oh. Yeah, like things like Azur Lane and stuff, like people end up
Yeah,
going crazy over
they need the
those, like spending
scarcity. They need to
thousands.
feel they need the exclusivity of it. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
hmm Oh no, that's all I was
Yeah.
saying. People just go crazy.
Yeah, but I do think
Gotcha.
VTubing is an art form, and I think especially even in the Western PR, a lot of people have spent a lot on it, and have had to turn it back or whatever. They get really into it, but I do think as a form of self-expression and art, and even performance art, as you know,
Mhm.
like I see VTubing a lot in the same ways as like early YouTube, and I think
Yeah.
as VTubing progresses, it'll follow the same line and will kind of move up towards the crazy performance. Like in some VTuber collabs and shows, I've seen like basically machinima. Like it takes me back, and so I'm seeing this art form
Mm-hmm.
of reusing these corporate, well, not corporate, but consumer ideas. You with the VTuber, the model is kind of a product in a way. And the same way that the
Yeah, yeah,
machinima took
definitely.
was basically taking these toy animations, except they're video game models, and doing crazy things with them. So it's transforming,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think VTubing is in a really unique position, and I will always stand for independent, creative VTubing projects because I want to see
Mm.
like this basically flourish in that sense.
Yeah. Uh, and that's kind of, it's a bit split between like indie VTubers and corporate VTubers in the sense that people kind of view them differently. It kind of feels like as an indie VTuber, like corporate VTubers like Hololive or like VShojo, or sure. VShojo is a little bit more indie like, but it totally feels like the vibe is different, right? Like I don't know if it's just me, but there's a different air about it just because the way that they run things is definitely more different from how an indie VTuber does
It
things.
does, and
Like Hololive is getting an anime, I think, if
oh, it
I
is.
remember
Yeah,
correctly,
I
or it wasn't, or something like that. They're having
well,
this huge promotional thing.
oh yeah, all the stuff for Iris, yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, but thinking on like what I want to actually see from VTubing is I want to see an indie scene that is that is powerful enough that it's not in competition with the corporate, but it blends with the corporate. I want to see the
Mhm.
corporate shows and the indies together in ways so that it can become so that it can become in much the same way actual streaming is right now, where there are big
Mhm.
streamers, but my like and they're streaming even well, I actually wouldn't say music because music is so locked down with the record deals, but I basically don't want it to go the way of music, where it's very hard to break into and you're never going to get unless you're
Mhm.
already within the space. I want to see it go the way of like streamers and YouTubers right now, where there are certainly YouTubers who treat it like a business, but they stand on par and work alongside YouTubers who do not see it as business, and so
Mhm.
it's a free ground where crazy things can happen, and it's not always tied up in corporate stuff.
Mhm. I mean, there are indies that do collabs with corporate VTubers, so I
Yeah,
mean, you're
but
starting to see a little bit of that
only the real
already.
top indies, and they're kind of also very affiliated in corporate too. I think like
That's
I
true.
think we
That's
if
true.
there was more smaller VTuber companies, that's actually a deficiency. Like small VTuber companies, not 27 follower VTuber groups on Twitter. I mean like actual companies that were saying like that would maybe say use VTubers in a promotional thing, but then also have them streaming and doing and interacting with larger VTuber community on the side. Uh,
Mm,
so it's
yeah,
because
definitely. I think
as
it's
I
good.
see it right now, like the difference between the big VTubers and the small and well, not even really the small, but the indie uh, is very vast. In that there are people
Yeah.
who are like myself included before I started VTubing who were like there are VTubers beyond VShojo, Hololive, and this funny thing called Niji and maybe some other Japanese things. That's crazy, and it's like yeah. So that should, and I think like that's why I think it's important that like VTuber Twitter shouldn't be very insular. Like it shouldn't be like always like you know your trends with your VTuber friends. Like it should actually be stuff that is also broader streaming stuff, so that
Hmm.
it can be for the audience as well as your friends, because your friends are gonna
Yeah.
try to stream. They're not gonna be able to watch you all the time, and you shouldn't expect that from them.
Hmm. But I think it's just a matter of time, because I guess VTubing, at least in the West, is kind of new.
Yeah.
Like Hololive English only popped up like a couple of years ago. So as time goes on, more people will realize that, hey, there are actually, like, I can become a VTuber, and wow, look at all these other VTubers that aren't the big ones. So it's just a matter of time of it kind of trickling down, like the intention trickling down to the smaller VTubers,
I
because
think.
you're seeing indies becoming somewhat
Hmm.
big, like having thousands of followers
I think
and stuff like
that
that. But sorry, go
Hololive
on.
English actually popped up right around, because I remember there was a time when I was there was a time after I was on quarantine where VTubers were not where there weren't really English VTubers, uh, besides some early V Shoujo people like Neoners, uh, and then Hololive English I think came out around this time summer last year,
Oh,
if I remember correctly.
really?
I might be
Last year?
distorting time.
It's only been. Oh man. Yeah, like my perception of time is also pretty fucked up. So totally don't blame you there. I just know it's been pretty recent. Especially with COVID, that also helped a lot of, people were staying home and people were kind of bored, so they're like, oh, what can I do? Oh, stream a VTube. But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it was the quarantine where it really took off.
Hmm. And now that things are opening back up, people are kind of getting filtered out of VTubing, because there's a I think statistically, like if you get above, or if you average above like 10 viewers or something, you're like in the top 1% of Twitch.
Yeah,
Which, putting
top
that into perspective, is like,
five
wow.
viewers is top 5%, 10 viewers is top 1%, and that's why I'm like, you know, hallelujah. I'm very very thankful. I love all my viewers, uh, but yeah, people say it's a bad thing to do, but I do have a thing that tracks what is it, follows and unfollows, and a lot of people have not unfollowed me, but have just straight up vanished into the ether, deleted accounts, like over the past month or
Oh.
so, and it makes sense. Things are opening back up. People are saying, "Do I really want to be a virtual
Mhm.
person?" And they just like you don't want to be tied between two lives, so they just cut it off. They're gone, disappeared into the ether. Maybe they'll carry a few people with them on
Yeah.
Discord.
Hmm. Because it's just that people don't sometimes don't go into it knowing how much work it is, because you have to get a model or like some sort of representation of yourself, and if you're not artistically inclined, then usually you have to spend money or commission someone, right? And then you have to put in the effort
Mm-hmm.
of networking and talking to people and meeting strangers and immersing yourself in this new culture, and people sometimes don't realize how much work that is, and how much goes into it. So then that can also filter them, and then they realize, oh, it's just easier to go back to what I was doing beforehand, which totally don't. I totally don't blame them. Sometimes it is kind of like getting pistol whipped, and you're just like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff I got
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, and
That's a responsibility.
well, yeah. If I probably wasn't in the unique situation where I am still kind of cooped up at home because state is slowly reopening. Well, it's actually all reopened now, but like I couldn't get out on the summer jobs or anything to get me really out of the house too much. And Also, location is not the best. I'm in the mountains. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
ironically, my even you think like the mountains would be a terrible situation for VTubing because horrible wired internet, but no, it's actually awesome. Because the time and
It works
location
out.
is just like, yeah, it's like VTubing's easy. If I want to play a game, I'll just stream it. Uh,
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
yeah. But if I was and and you know, like let's say I was older, like I needed to get a job instead of going off to a 4 year program college next year. That might be a different situation with like VTubing,
Hmm.
but of course, if with the college I'm going to, I could probably make streams out of just reading, you know, my because it's a very literature heavy college. I could make streams out of reading.
Ah, yeah. So like it's just your situation, the
Hmm.
time, and the place just happen to all like align. You
Hmm.
could say it's God's will or something, huh?
Hey, amen. All right, with that, since I should probably get on to eating these, let's get into the next video, and I'll
Yes,
try to
and
quickly finish doing that.
Hello,
Mhm.
this is Meme Analysis, and today, as a part of our series on meme magic, I'm going to be looking at a type of meme. Memes that cross the threshold of reality. Now, there are a few types of these memes. They can begin as a meme with the intent to transcend the internet reality boundary, or they can be memes that are intentionally recreated by somebody in reality, and so on. 4chan memes. To start out, there are memes that are made on 4chan with the specific intent of influencing people in reality. They will oftentimes make fake news announcements or, fake articles and so on with the hope that they can influence people to act in usually a way that's harmful to themselves. To give an example, they were aware of the iPhone flaw, which made them very bendable, breakable, which is they don't bend and stay, they bend and they break. So they said Apple has a secret feature on the iPhone which allows them to bend and still work. And then a lot of
Nice,
people
Kami-sama.
ended up bending and breaking their
You're
iPhones. And thus we see how a meme influences reality in there. That it is a meme that was made with the intent of affecting people's actions in day-to-day life. Another example would be the rolling up of a ball of tin foil,
Oh
putting it in
my
the microwave,
god.
and expecting there to be a polished metal sphere that comes out, but of course it starts a fire and ruins the microwave. This again, it's an
It's a good thing
intentionally
you can charge your
destructive
phone in the microwave
meme
without that
format.
happening.
Yeah,
Reddit
totally.
memes.
Just pop it in there.
Yeah,
Lately
like
and in the
100%
past, there
battery in a
was
few
a
minutes.
sort of meme format which is
Couple
the
minutes.
realization of an internet meme in physical form. Most recently, it was done with a SpongeBob meme that was spray painted onto a wall in a kid's school. There's been successful recreations of SpongeBob episodes in live action, and so on. Many times we recreate a meme in live action and then it experiences a great deal of popularity. And this, in some ways, has to do with something I talked about earlier in the concept of the Freudian uncanny, in the recreation of forms and what they mean to us, how they, again, they embody a drive, they embody libido. This is true of memes in themselves, but when we see them recreated in physical reality, they become truly uncanny. They retain a magical power out of the virtue of their being real. And so they become much more popular than, say, a reposted or interesting little caption on the meme. The entrance of the meme beyond the veil of reality, beyond the veil of the internet, that is what gives it that magical power. Freudian magic. Freud's theories on magic centered around some of Frazer's ideas and the anthropology of his time, which he believed stated that magic is based almost primarily upon wishing. That when one wishes for something, the unconscious takes it into account and will then bring about the actions, beliefs, attitudes that will enact that wish. And when the thing happens, people believe that it was done by magic, that the wish is directly causal of the manifestation. I think this is a bit conservative, and I think that Jung and Reich give us a more suitable and realistic view of how the unconscious can become real in a way that is not reliant on personal unconscious causation, but on collective unconscious realization. Now, to finish this up, I will give you a very, very clear example of meme magic, of a meme that crosses the threshold into reality with hyperstitional ease. And it is the popular meme on 4chan, Bane, and Bane posting from The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh boy.
Now, I'm sure many of you have seen the scene in the film. Some of the popular lines are, "You're a big guy, for you," and "crashing this plane with no survivors." And of course, in the Batman franchise, we have the character Bruce Wayne and his sidekick Robin. Now, all of these make their presence known in something very strange, something that was immediately taken notice of by 4chan when it happened. This event was a plane crash that took place in France in 2015. 4chan quickly took note. The plane had crashed in the region Les Bains. There were no survivors. The flight number was 4U. And, perhaps most strangely, the lead investigator was named Bruce Robin. All of this was so deeply intertwined with the mimetic fiber of Bane posting. It's almost beyond a doubt that it is not merely a coincidence, but that there is in fact a synchronistic relation between Bane posting and this plane crash. Now, I believe that this is one of the first occurrences in a very long line of meme magic synchronicities and hyperstitions. Some that are much more powerful. I'm going to devote a video to that in my video on the 2016 election. But overall, I think that I have given you a brief look at memes and how they can transcend boundaries between the internet and our reality. Remember, memes matter.
I'm crashing this plane with no survivors.
Gosh, I actually didn't know that about the plane thingy. I'm hearing about first here.
I didn't know
So,
about it either
wow.
before this video, but
God, coincidence really do line up perfectly.
yeah, there's no such thing as a coincidence.
There is no such thing as a coincidence. Oh my god.
This
Man.
discussion on meme magic touches on, well, the idea of magic in general, which to magic practitioners is the art of telling stories and influencing reality, which is something that memes are powerful at doing. And one of the cruxes of magic, even before the modern internet, was the idea of sigils. You have an image, say a voodoo doll, a magic circle or whatever, and you donate power to this image. You charge up your crystal, and through this you achieve some desired outcome, like the animal sacrifice thing. Except you're using this image to even focus that energy more, and so in this case, there's a lot of energy around crashing planes being devoted through symbols of this Bane scene. And when a plane crashes, it lines up almost perfectly with those symbols. What's up with that?
Yeah. What's going on, dude? It's just God playing a little funny prank. It's doing a little trolling.
Amen, I do.
But I guess it's kind of like that saying that's pretty well known. It's like art, something reality. You know, like art mimics reality or something like that.
Reality mimics art.
Yeah. So something similar, and I think it's been around for quite a long time. So maybe even back then, coincidence happened. Things like that. But yeah, definitely crazy. And I mean, memes influence real life even outside of coincidences. I'm not sure if Slenderman counts as a meme, but I guess it's kind of entertainment. So something along those lines, right? There was that whole
Yeah.
stabbing that happened. Um, so it's just crazy how these things can kind of have ties with reality and like the real world,
Mm-hmm.
outside of the internet has the consequences that may be fatal or
I mean, yeah,
very
Slenderman basically
dangerous.
inadvertently caused the creation of a witch coven and an attempted ritual of sacrifice. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just like this funny haha game about man with no face, but it was taken so seriously by these people. It's just crazy. And you kind of see how people value different things, right? And how people can get attached, maybe unhealthily, to specific forms of media and entertainment, and the
Tulpas are
relationships
a
between
very
them.
funny topic. I
Oh
recently
gosh,
learned.
tulpas, man.
Oh, I recently learned. I recently learned about this one story of the tulpa, where it was this guy who had created the Pinkie Pie tulpa. He's like posting on 4chan. Why is
Oh.
my Pinkie Pie tulpa? Why won't my Pinkie Pie tulpa stop screaming at me? It's been screaming at me. How do I undo this?
I think I remember seeing that, dude. Oh my god. And people would either try to help him or try to like dig him a deeper hole. And the thing is like you don't even know if that's real or if it's just somebody
Yeah.
making something up for, the haha
Yeah.
funnies.
But on the internet,
Uh,
there's no difference between reality and fiction. So it becomes a
that's true.
real
It's
story of a
it's up to
tulpa.
you. True. It's up to the reader viewer on what they want to believe in, right? If you want to believe something is true, then believe it, and it's true in your mind, I guess, right? It's kind of like that discussion of like if a tree falls down in a forest, and does it make a sound if nobody's around to hear it,
Mhm.
or does it not make a sound?
Yeah, and we're in
Very.
this age that's becoming the when we're hearing if you hear a tree fall but no tree has fallen, you can't confirm it. Does a tree fall? That's becoming basically the law
True.
of our existence.
Ah,
Uh,
and it's
but
like the cat.
yeah, oh,
um,
Schrodinger's cat. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh man.
but
And I'm not sure if you were around for it, but oh, sorry, go on.
Canned bread Kika. I actually will disagree with you. I think that this is not intentional, but I think it is a form of meme match in the same way that someone. Let's use a historical example. A pamphlet was passed around called at the turn of the century, detailing the protocols of a secretive group to try to usurp power of the world. Now, one of the readers of this pamphlet tried to initiate a war to claim power over the world from the hegemony of the time. This this was a meme, a story that had great power and led to one of the bloodiest and brutalist conflicts in history, that being World War II. It just because when you put something out into the world, like Slenderman, you will not know the effects that it has, but it can obviously lead to crazy spiraling things. I think the story of MGS is a good example of this too, where the boss's final words are but the people who hear them lead to wildly different these wildly different outcomes when it was just a lamentation over in the end it's just she's I want a world where people are fighting for what they believe in, not for national alliances where the world is united as one. That was just, I want an end to the Cold War. I want to not have to be fighting people anymore. But it became let's unite the world with the patriots. Let's create a mercenary group and conquer an island, declare our independence from the world. Like it spiraled off into all these crazy forms. But it was an idea that took hold of people and had a life of its own. But go ahead on what you're going to say, Retsu.
I actually
Uh,
kind of kind of forgot. But
I'm
what you
sorry.
said is like infinitely times more interesting. So don't worry
Well,
about it.
what are your thoughts on it?
My
Have you
memory
played
is bad.
MGS?
No, I haven't. It sucks because it's like one of those classic like the classic gamer games, right? But I do want to get around to it. I just recently found out like the whole uh thing where he's talking to Armstrong there, and Armstrong talks about the cushy Ivy League thing. People would quote that, and I just found out like last year where it was from because before that I was like, what's going on? Who's going to a cushy Ivy League? You know? But yeah, I do need to get around to it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a series about memes with a lot of memes because Kojima was wonderful. But I certainly want to play it once I figure out a good way to emulate it. I certainly want to play it, and I think it's actually a good streaming game because it gives you a lot of freedom in how to approach the situations. You can like go
definitely.
stealth. You can be you can it's not advised, but you can be like all gun shooting, or you can do like dumb shit like
Hmm.
put on an alligator suit, camp out in a river, and wait until the sniper reveals himself to you.
That's funny. Oh my gosh, yeah, that definitely sounds like a good game to stream, viewers. A lot of people like it, so, go for it, dude. I'd love to see it.
But let's move on to the next video.
Age the world.
Memes matter. My final message. Subscribe.
Also, new theme music, so you won't keep having to listen to that Fortnite theme all the time.
Hello, this is Meme Analysis, and today we're
New
going to be
music.
looking at a
We love
very
to hear it.
specific meme. Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. The image
She used it
consists
in a
of a
post.
kind of cursed image with a sort of starving rat smoking a cigarette. And I saw a thread recently trying to figure out where it's from because it's so strange. And there are previous memes that had utilized this rat, cursed images, but nobody seems to be able to find where it's from, when did it start, and just found like little hints of that text littered all over. But I thought that it was pretty influential, specifically on the SpongeBob rising up and disappearing, because the rat disappears in this meme. So I thought we'd give it a closer look because I think it has, a few important undertones that we can utilize to understand memes in general. So, come along with me and we'll see. Change the world. I think that this meme is a kind of microcosmal drama about the future that every meme experiences. The memes undergo a kind of transitory existence where they go from funny, then become cringe when they're misused or too popular and outdated, and then ultimately, at the end of their lifetime, they become cursed. The libido has all but sapped away, dripped away and coagulated, and all that is left is this kind of bizarre shell. And to think, once I thought this was funny, I thought this was cool, that is this malnutrition, starving rat, smoking a cigarette, barely holding on, giving his final will to the viewer. I think it's a look at every sort of early animal meme, these kind of funny animals doing something human. And of course, there are other animal smoking cigarettes memes, but oftentimes it's in a sense that, oh, they're being like us. It's kind of funny, it's kind of cute. But obviously, in the sense, it's taken to its extreme. The animal has lost a large degree of its animality. It is almost too human, too sick to go on. Several incarnations of this rat meme have utilized Russian text, And I think Russian text is an important aspect of understanding the meme. You can see Russian text utilized, I think, most prominently in the every friend group has these kind of friends. The truck freak, the crazy ass, the fighter, and then this horrible cursed image with Russian text, which when translated says drug, which just means friend, but oftentimes it was just kind of Americanized as a peer. But that gave us kind of the first look at Russian text being used to show an aspect of a meme, or that a cursed image was other to the person looking at it. That's why cursed images have soon become accompanied by more and more Russian text. There's "Goodnight, Mr. Gator," with the gator on fire, and of course now the rat with Russian text below it. I think that's extremely important. Russia, in the political sphere, has come to take on the role of other, as it did in the 1950s. These memes are kind of following suit. As I was saying, the rat meme is a look at memes in the future, the kind of final experience that every meme has when it is no longer funny, no longer cringe, but cursed. When it has gained all power in its own form to disturb. It's no longer about the way that we put
Russia is a
energy
land
onto
of
it.
magical
It's almost
realism.
taking away energy. It's a sink.
Russia
It's
is
something that's more dangerous
abstract.
because it has power
idea.
as a disturbing force, like L. Ron Hubbard's Enneagram or Burroughs' virus. This is the kind of final result of the virus when we see it for what it is. So I thought it would be important to go from the cursed rat into another kind of rat, a libidinal rat. So
rat.
I thought the
Many
important
rats.
thing to do would be to read Nick Land and to read his section, Spirit and Teeth, and specifically the part about rats, to give you a bit of an idea on why the meme specifically, the fuck this rat doing here? He got the nuts
It's
going.
just there.
That is beyond a kind of silly meme. But in fact, rats do have nuts. Through history, the rat has been a libidinal vector. So, this is from, he's quoting another book here, but I still think it's an important one. It is a curious fact that long before there could
Very
have been any
cursed.
knowledge
Make you
concerning the
uncomfortable,
dangerous
Bodega?
character of rodents as carriers of disease, mankind dreaded and pursued these animals. Sticker has collected a great many references to the subject from ancient and medieval literature, and has found much evidence in the folklore of medieval Europe, which points to the vague recognition of some connection between plague and rats. In ancient Palestine, the Jews considered all 7 mouse varieties, akbar, unclean, and as unsuited for
That a
human
fried
nourishment as
rat?
were pigs.
Yep.
Oh my god.
The
Oh my
worshippers
god.
of Zoroaster hated water rats and believed the killing of rats was a service to God, and so on. So we get the image of rats as plague carriers. And if we view the plague in that kind of Freudian sense, we know that it is a sort of supernatural knowledge, a supernatural power,
Bodega, come on
control
my
of
show,
the
we can
libido
deep fry
and
you like
drive.
Retsuo.
from becoming a mouse, and then a black
Fried
rat,
lobster and deep fried
and then a brown rat, or from becoming one sister, and then a pack of wolves, and then a swarm of rats. The eternity of Rambo's inferior race shares its diseases with Nietzsche's deep, deep eternity, for which the very adjective is torn apart by convulsive waves
Deep
of
fried
descent.
lobster, deep
An
fried rat, and then a
unfathomable abyss
mukbang
of
right after
regression
that.
or recurrence protracts itself
Dude,
epidemically into
that'd be
Trackle's
epic.
body. I am all the vermin in history. What becomes clear from this reading, and if you read deeper into it, is that rats are capable of transcending all barriers, permeating all walls, that they are the perfect carriers of contagion. And when you read Thirst for Annihilation, you can see what this virulent strain is that Land's rats are carrying, and that is libidinal materialism. And as we know, the libido is stored in the balls. So, rats are the carriers of land's libidinal plague, and this meme expresses that perfectly. Now, on to the next rat. He kind of fresh though.
Uno mas.
For the final stage of the video, I thought we would look at the exact opposite of the cursed rat from Changed World. We have the rat, or in this case, a squirrel, or cat, or dog, which has retained its freshness. From the very beginning of the classical meme, where we saw, animals doing silly things, or animals doing human things, something that we talked about in the Surreal Doge video. Like, just a quick example is a kitten with a sniper rifle. Those will always be relatable. They will always have a degree of humor. No matter how ironic you have become, you can still be amused at an animal doing something funny. Still relatable. And so, these memes, it's sort of a look at the person and their stream of conscious when looking at the meme. It's like, what is that animal doing wearing pants? He looks kind of fresh though. It's an amusement. It's not a denial. We're not saying this animal is cringe. It's similar to the meme where it's, you're epic, here's some chalky milk for you. It's a speaking to the viewer, acknowledging you, acknowledging what you find funny. Because in fact, the meme is kind of fresh though. The animals dressed up doing silly things will always be fresh. Whereas, we're going back. They are fresh at the moment, but there is the potential for them to become like the rat. For the meme that was funny, that puts too much of its value with witches and sorcerers and hate and misery, those are the memes that have the potential of becoming cursed. We might hope that we will always be able to relate to funny animal memes. But the truth might be in the cursed image. The truth might be that every meme will become cursed. There will be nothing that lasts throughout all of human history. Every archetype will shift with the aeons. There will be nothing left of old humanity 10,000 years from now. Who knows? But what we do know is that memes are great signifiers for the emotions, for the deep, repressed feelings of our current aeon. So, if you want to hope to understand people in the way that they feel, in the way that they relate to their own species and to others, take a look at animal memes, what it says about the animal and how it feels about the animal. And remember, memes matter.
Whoops. Didn't mean to click that. What?
What?
I accidentally clicked on the channel thing. It took me out. There we go.
I don't know what to say about that one, really. I just kind of absorb the information. I'm like,
Yeah, it's a very
right.
one. I feel like what is lacking to it is a discussion on like cursed images itself. Like, why are these images cursed?
Yeah.
Because it kind of just goes with the assumption, that this disturbing and cursed, but why? And I think it is like the rat being malnourished and stuff. So it's like, it's wrong. The animal is being human, but it's wrong. But then there's also like the environment that's cursed. It's like in a concrete, like little hole before it just disappears from existence, leaving just the street behind.
I guess it's kind of like an uncomfortable image, and there are people who maybe like the uncomfortableness of it, if that's a word, There's I'm not sure if you know of it, but there's a YouTuber called Baphomet Kun, and they make these like really kind of comfortable yet uncomfortable videos that deal with like abstract kind of themes and stuff like that, and like angels and things, and the imagery is very like distorted and sometimes horrifying and scary, but people still like it. You know, they still find it amusing and sometimes funny, or sometimes just nice to watch. And it's kind of interesting how people can find comfort or entertainment in morbid things. Um, yeah.
No, no,
Very
Kami-sama,
interesting.
you were
Very
right the
interesting.
first time. This is the weirdest dream you'll ever be having. So don't pinch yourself. You might forget in the
Yeah.
morning. But always remember, this
Wake
wisdom
up,
comes
Kami.
from the soul. This is just your unconscious speaking to you right now,
You're
telling you, how to
manifesting.
live by through memes you have seen in the deep past. Ain't that right, Ratsuo?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You ready for the dream stream?
Yes.
Hmm.
Everyone on the internet is a mental projection but you.
I don't know why, but that just it makes me think of Dream from Minecraft. So thanks, guys. Now I'm thinking of Dream,
Makes me
which I
think
don't
of
really care to think about.
it makes me think of LSD Dream Emulator.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't. I've heard people talk about it, but I kind of want to experience. See, I don't do drugs or anything, so it's like I don't know like any of those experiences. I just drink occasionally, but drugs.
Yeah, I haven't
Interesting,
tried any
interesting.
psychedelics either. So when people are like, they must be microdosing DMT, I'm just like, nah, 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 man. Just live through some
What's
shit, and you
going
don't
on?
need
What does
that
that mean?
DMT at all, huh?
Huh? Oh no, I'm just like I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what even like microdosing.
yeah.
I guess taking in small amounts. I'm goody two shoes.
But I will say in regards to drugs, I'll repeat what Malice said about it, which is, yeah, people use drugs to have spiritual or insightful experiences, revelation to pry
Mhm.
open their mind. But remember, you're like basically taking a crowbar to your mind. So if you can't put it back together, you're in for a bad time. You could be
Oh,
you could
oh
be
boy,
you
oh
could be
boy.
Crowley, like the greatest Western occultist of the century, and you take too many drugs, and you start down a spiral that leaves you penniless and dead in the gutter. Like, it's don't like you got to be very, very careful. So that's what I'll say to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were like big scientists who also started taking a bunch of drugs, and then they kind of went down the
Yeah.
deep end. I can't name any off of the top of my head, but I feel like I've read about it
I
for
do
sure.
remember from the MK Ultra trials. Well, the,
Oh
the
my
MK
god,
Ultra
MK
trials
Ultra.
famously produced, well, one guy who's remembered with it because he committed suicide and helped led to the dismantlement of the program because they lost a scientist
Hmm.
that they were trying to dose with LSD
Yeah.
just to see if it would do his work better, and he had a episode and jumped from a window, knowingly or not. But then there's also Uncle Ted, who was an MK Ultra victim, and well,
Oh.
went cra- it had to became so disillusioned with society he had to leave it completely, and then did funny force stuff. But he
Man.
basically LSD screwed him up in such a way that he could not stand the world anymore, and he had to move to like
Mhm.
peaceful nature environment.
I see. But the thing is, like with MK Ultra, they were like pumping those people full of
Yeah,
drugs, right? Like it was insane amounts that should not be in a person. That whole entire experiment.
yeah.
But then again, like human experimentation is like a whole nother topic that's very, very. It's something else. It's something else for sure. Yeah.
Well, on DMT,
Drugs.
Kami-sama, it's also the drug that your body releases when you're dying too. So it's not as clear cut as it's just the dream drug. Either you have to be knowledgeable and careful about these things. Uh,
Mhm. Well, that's with all things, I think,
yeah,
like even with water, if you drink too much water, you can die from it.
that's true.
Yeah. Gotta be careful.
kind of want to check out a
That's our
video
TED
by
Talk.
Baphomet-kun because he mentioned it. So,
Go for it, dude. I totally recommend.
Baphomet. Here. Baphomet-kun.
It's like you can really like analyze and look into their videos. It's very interesting.
Well, when you mentioned like comforting but disturbing videos, it reminded me of like the idea of like blurst, like blessed and cursed, even though that's, kind of dumb
Oh,
jargon.
yeah.
Like you're calling to something. Well, I would say something peaceful returning to you in a form that is now disturbing and alien because you cannot recognize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still have the same look in your eyes. Please, what brings you in here today? I don't need your help. Basket of strawberries randomly appear near me. What are you? Can't ask that. A basket of strawberries, mind if I ask? Are they fresh? They are waiting. It's a good thing they are still fresh. Promise me, don't let the temptations of the strawberries get to you. If you do encounter them again, gently hold one and bring it to Dr. Huh?
Doctor,
Until then, I'll notice
it's
Dr.
cute.
Ford. They will examine and dissect the real meaning of this. Thank you for alerting me. I knew you could trust me. Alright.
So yeah.
The simple analysis I would give to that is it's
Oh, the caretaker. Sorry.
We've gone into the caretaker. The funniest, the parody of the caretaker, which actually got me more than the actual caretaker, was the one with Minecraft music. Because I was like,
Minecraft music.
yeah, because I was like, oh my god, because I played so much Minecraft as a kid. It was, the game with me and my friends, and so when you hear like music will be the thing, well, music from your childhood will be the thing you remember. Till the very end, those rhythms. It's like, yeah, those rhythms hold a lot of power. The same with the video where it's like, when you listen to Minecraft music but you're not a kid anymore, and it shows like all these like old things that are now gone, from cartoons to Some Ordinary Gamers, and I'm like,
oh man,
yeah, I remember
the
all
feels.
this. Yeah.
The feels.
Yeah, even
The
old
nostalgia.
YouTube intros. Yeah. The nostalgia. But on that video we just saw, I would say it's talking about a basket of strawberries, where strawberries are, well, they're a red fruit. They're a red seedy fruit. In a way, they kind of remind me of apples. I'm gonna make the comparison. I might connect it back later. It's talking about, and we're not allowed to ask "What are you?" to the thing that we're talking to, and so I think that ultimately means that the "What are you?" is us, where we are unable to, because of course you can't recognize something demonic. It must be you, except that this is the except that this is I would say like almost a conscience or like a guardian spirit. They're looking out for you and subtly guiding you, and so we have a gift of these strawberries, wanted or not, and it's saying bring it to Dr. Fleur, who, well, I'm kind of colored in the fact that I'm Fleur, but I feel like this is saying I feel like this is saying because the strawberries it's either a symbol of pleasure or knowledge, the thing with the apples. So you find this and you're unsure about it. It might be a shake to you as thing, so you're mentioning this thing to your conscience. You're standing by yourself in a room talking, and you're unable to recognize that, but you trust it intrinsically, and you're asking, what do I do when I encounter these? And it's saying maybe run it by, I would say, Dr. Fleur is like the super ego. It's firstly it's a very odd and constructed name with doctor to it, which makes it gives it like an authority figure kind of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a simple thing of 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 moderation of the mind. You have something that is not necessarily bad, but maybe discordant. It might pose some issues. It could be bad, could be good, even though it leans pretty good, so you're unsure about it. And it's saying, run it by, you know, run it by the tertiary stuff. It is what your consciousness is saying to you. Uh, and if that's good, then the basket is good. And it has that
That's
dreamlike
a
quality
really
because it has that dreamlike quality because of all these uh, because of all these elements which are ultimately very simple shallow symbols for parts of the mind.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. You're right. Goodness. But you like analyze that just like that. But I guess there's different ways you could look at it, but that does seem like really like obvious and well, not superficial, but like uh simple way to put it. I'm not sure if I'm using the right words, but it's like there. But I'm kind of interested in like what other people, because like Kip said, it really depends on the person. So maybe people will interpret it differently, as something else, as maybe like an actual demon talking to the viewer, or something like that.
Yeah, but
Um,
the like the way I would give to because there's you had I think like you should have maybe a method to go on it, if that makes sense. And the method I was kind of trying to use, though I wasn't recognizing it, was like, who are we talking to, or who's the subject? What's our relation to them? What's the location? And what's the subject matter? The person we're talking to, the subject, is an unknown. Their relationship is one of trust, and the location we're in is in this one nondescript room, and so this kind of all encloses it within the mind. We're talking to someone in our mind. Uh, we're talking to ourselves, and then finally the subject matter is, well, the basket of strawberries is very loose and it's open to a bunch, but ultimately it's something discordant. It doesn't agree with the colors of this room. So it's so it's so as an object, it's just a thing of discourse and of discord, and that's kind of how I went off of it.
Yeah, I totally follow your and it's totally makes sense to me. Checks out. But that was really interesting to hear your take on it, because usually when I watch these videos, I just like enjoy them superficially, and I'm like, wow, funny goat man,
Well, why don't
But if you like that one, oh,
yeah, why don't you
I
pull
totally
up one of
recommend
your
like checking out.
favorites? Why don't you pull up one of your favorites and
Oh man,
analyze it yourself? Try to use that
oh man,
method.
I'm not really the the analyzing type, and I don't think I have any favorites really, because I just watch every one of them and I just
Uh,
enjoy it superficially. I feel bad for
I
saying
mean,
that, but yeah,
I'm
usually
not
with
sure it has
videos
that
like this.
dreamlike quality. I'd say it's not like you're really getting too attached to it. It's meant to be, I feel, like a stream of consciousness activity, uh, like where it's
Hmm.
just going into your mind, especially with the music too. And
Yeah.
it's a drone, and that's very intentional.
Mhm. Ah, man, but the thing is, like, some of the videos like aren't like this. Some of them are just like flashing images. It's like sensory overload with lots of like loud
Mm-hmm.
music, So it's like that would be different from this. And I guess the interpretations would be a lot different for that too. Um, and a lot of what Baphomet Kun deals with is like memories, these houses that point to childhood and maybe some childhood trauma, and I'm not sure if it's maybe Baphomet-kun, like expressing themselves and their history of like maybe I don't know, childhood trauma into these videos, and other people can relate, you know. But it's very very interesting because the videos themselves aren't always like, oh, this kid is in danger. It's just a kid remembering something, but it's things are off. You know, things are not
I get
okay.
that.
But yeah, it's very very interesting. I totally think you would enjoy these videos maybe. And a
Well,
lot of them have religious
yeah, in a
stuff.
way, like the inside of a house is the inside of a mind a lot of the time.
Oh
Not when we're
yeah,
actually treating it as the
that too.
house, but when we're treating it as like going back to your childhood home is an experience because you're basically going back to this old place that was once your life. And like we think about
Mhm.
like something my dad said that's very poignant. It's like we don't actually live a very big world. If you think about like car barring cars and planes and and vehicles, if you think of those as just space on themselves, like your workplace, your house, the inside of your car, and other places that you walk around to are pretty much your world. And
Mhm. That's true.
so and these are like and so your childhood house is like when people go back to childhood house they're doing it because of like what is reflected of me and here or that period of my life, my memories, to see how it differs. And so it can be an uncanny experience. I would say that about my first childhood home, where the street coming back to is very different. The house hasn't been occupied, so there's no furniture. It's kind of the outside is kind of
Oh.
run down. The street, a lot of people have moved out because of economic stuff, and so it's like so returning to that place was like it felt very much in the past, and it felt
Mhm.
strange. And that's how I think a lot of returning childhood home feels like, especially in this day and age where things are happening so fast.
Mhm. Because you're just like you're confronted with those memories, and like change is always everybody reacts to change differently, but you know, you go back to those memories that may be good or maybe bad, and either way you're just kind of, I don't know, it's like an abstract feeling that I feel like everybody has gone through, of it's just like, wow, uh, that happened, and now we're here, and now I'm seeing it again and revisiting it. You know, like kind of like going to an
Yeah.
old elementary school. It's very weird feeling. Yeah, just weird,
and
weird.
the flashing images and bombastic music, I think the like as much as you can have something that's very harmonious like this, where it has this color palette of white and like almost obscuring green, like a glowy green where you don't even recognize
Mhm.
it, and this of course glowing figure, so it creates this dreamlike quality. You can have something harmonious, but you can also do it in reverse, and that can be kind of
Mhm.
like if a dream is like a very harmonious location that feels ethereal, like it's not real because it's so perfect. That a nightmare is something that's very
Mhm.
real but so discordant, it's too real. Like there's too much sound,
Yeah.
there's too much color, too much noise. Cruelty. Have you seen the game Cruelty Squad?
No, I have not.
Ah, well, I was thinking about playing it, but watching some gameplay gave me motion sickness. So I was like, all right, I won't be able to tolerate this. But
Ah.
I I find the aesthetic very cool because it's like it is. A lot of people have like said like this is an awesome game that is here.
Oh, I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
This is an awesome game that tries to scare you away or tries to filter you out because it's just like intolerable. It's mostly the head tilt which like I get filtered by, and it's like, ah, oh, come on, can't the head tilt be lessened? But like
Maybe
yeah,
you could disable it. Yeah, the visuals are very wow. Yeah, that's something else. Like the meat patterns on the wall and stuff like that. Usually people get freaked out by the
yeah,
graphics too.
and it contributes to this, and all of it contributes to this, like, well, it reinforces the tone of the game, which is this actually, hellish cyberpunk future where the body isn't sacred. So people are ugly, things are ugly. Buildings are monstrous. Towers
Mhm.
and all that, and color, and nothing comes together. Uh, but that's what creates its. That's what makes it like its own Deus Ex, where it's like where it all comes into communicating this bad, like very very bad setting to live in.
Yeah. hmm Um, and I'm actually kind of glad that you showed me this because it's totally right up my alley. But it's like, yeah, the freakiness factor of it, and it's just trying to kind of unnerve you and make you feel like uncomfortable, and obviously things aren't right in this universe and whatnot, especially with the text right there. It's like biology has failed us, things are obviously not good. But it also kind of reminds me of like Doom, because Doom, while it's more I guess grounded and maybe more realism, you know it's still really red and meaty, and like these horrifying monsters
oh yeah,
are coming at you and trying to kill you.
Doom
So it has
2016
kind of the
has a
same vibe.
lovely aesthetic, mostly because with their mega texturing, they could edit very fine details on a level without needing to change all the textures. So they could
Oh.
have blood splatters on all the walls and be crazy and all that stuff. And so you can see like this place really really messed up, and I actually love like the how metal that is. It feels like a very over the top metal concert, in like every part of the game, with the candles and the blood and the levels that are industrial and all that. But old
Mhm.
Doom is a very surreal experience too, uh, because I might pull up a visual reference of like Doom 2. Let's see what images come up for Doom 2. Trying to get it. Doom 2.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get one that has ah. It's like the environments are the environments are surreal. They're like architecture. Every piece of architecture feels like a temple, in that it's like not
Yeah.
designed for humans. Uh,
hmm
it's designed for it's designed for gameplay, of course, but you looking at it like from an in-universe perspective, you just gotta take the time and stop playing for a bit. It's like, wow, what are these places? They're so weird, and
True.
it creates very like some of the levels are titled, which give indications of what they're supposed to be. Like, this is a factory, so like, okay, that brick building's like a warehouse and stuff, and but then it's like,
Mhm.
this is supposed to be, Demos Lab. I recognize it. Yeah, and the visuals are very stunning. You can recognize which place you're in. This is Demos Lab, and it's like, wow, everything's covered in vines, and it's all open and rocky, and like, what were they doing down here? And it makes you think about like, because they're environments that seem inhumanly constructed, especially in like
Mhm.
especially especially in hell. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's like, what are these buildings? Are those force fields? Is
These
that
blocks.
fire? Are these walls are tech and flesh, and so I
Mhm.
love, I love Doom's aesthetic, and I've made a bunch of Doom maps, like, try because it
That's
has
fun.
these odd feelings.
Mhm.
And when you embrace this is what's cool, because you can use like the like standard like silvery star tech based textures, and create some unified feel, which looks like a command post, like a military base. That's no fun. But
Mhm.
this is a
This is
strange
funky.
place. This is when you're in here. It doesn't like this is like probably the best unorthodox hell, which isn't just fire and brimstone and or dark scary caves. It's like
Yeah, they got like funky
yeah,
purple stuff.
you got some weird mix of technology, flesh, and like unreal, impossible geometry that comes together in these
Hmm.
odd buildings where it's like this place is truly another realm.
Definitely, I do get that vibe, and they pulled it off really well. Especially, back then there's a bunch of limitations on what
Mm-hmm.
you can do in games and stuff like that. But I think the limitations ended up helping them out in in that end of giving that otherworldly feel. You're in a
Yeah.
place where obviously you're not supposed to be in.
Yeah, Doom's
You're an
limitation was
outsider.
they couldn't have floors over floors. There's a floor, a ceiling, and walls in between because that was what they could
Hmm.
handle with a flat grid map. And so you get buildings which are of course based around the which are based around interesting modulation of height, but not not actual creation of like platforms and outcroppings and stuff. It all has to be
Hmm.
it has to be flat but different in height. And that's very different from like Quake, where once Quake comes around, it's like standard castles and stuff because you can have castle
Yeah.
ramparts and yeah, you can have castle ramparts and like wooden ceilings, tiled floors, arches. Like it's just a normal building now.
True. And I guess it's kind of more plain in that sense, and not
Yeah.
as exciting. But I guess some games are just built like that. Other games are a lot more funky and fresh. Depends
My
on the person who wants to play them too.
Kami-sama says my vision of hell is the anime psychopaths. Yeah,
Psychopath.
that I watched that series as intended. I watched until they killed Makima, and then I didn't watch an episode more because I knew that I was like, all right, that's that. The series is done, and I'm glad that they ended it with a bullet being put in his brain.
Um, I don't know much about Psychopaths, but oh shit, no. I was thinking of Mob Psycho. I was like,
Ah,
oh, that's the ghost guy. My bad.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, oh.
that would be a very strange that'd be like a very strange ending to Mob Psycho.
Yeah. I was like, oh, what's going on? But yeah.
The gist of Psychopaths, which you might want to pick up, is it's a crime drama set in the future where someone's status as a criminal is not based off crimes, but their mental but their
Oh.
but their mind basically. So if you have a criminal
Oh.
mind, you're a criminal, as determined by a computer. Uh, So
Hmm.
if you have a criminal mind, then you're a criminal and must be rehabilitated or locked up forever so you can't commit crimes. Uh,
Is it like if you think something wrong, then you'll be flagged, or is it like from when you're born they scan you and then they know, or when
it's
you
more
develop
like
they scan you and they know?
it's not specific thoughts. It's not like you think like I hate the president and you get flagged. It's more like you're like your whole mental profile is uh,
Ah,
if
okay.
you are very depressed, then if you are very depressed and your depression could cause you to lash out at somebody, then you are a latent criminal and need to be rehabilitated until you're not depressed
Oh,
anymore and can work and function society again.
okay.
Uh,
I see. I
yeah, you're
see.
given a stability number essentially. If you exceed certain tolerances, you're re-educated or terminated.
That's actually a really cool premise. I haven't heard of anything like that, like, specifically that. sort of mind scan. But that's really cool. I definitely will check it out.
Yeah, it's this, it's this very I love the technological aesthetic of it. It's just this very sleek blue and black, all their tech, and the main character has a very interesting actually the main character duo, both have very interesting arcs based around like the what is justice essentially in this world. Uh, so I won't spoil too much more, but it's a very cool anime. You should check it out.
All right, thank you for the recommendation, Kami and Fleur. I appreciate that. And actually, I think this might be a good time for me to, you know, skedaddle.
Yeah,
Because it
we're
is a
gonna
bit
end pretty late.
later.
It's been very fun. So I thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun talking about all the memes and all the philosophy
Yeah, and
like
see,
that.
you have to
And thank
start
you
with
for
it
the
being like,
viewers.
is this some weird ass trip? Is this guy trolling? And then you're like, oh my god, he's serious. I'm serious. And
Yeah.
the subject of memeology is something that must be rigorously explored for the sake of humanity.
Mhm. You don't expect it, but then you
Yeah.
come out learning all these things. It's very interesting. Good experience for sure, and we'll try to maybe do more stuff, whenever both of us are free or if you're up for it.
Yeah. Do you have
It
any
was fun.
closing
It was definitely
remarks or
fun.
final thoughts?
Uh, my mind's a bit blank. Just that I had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate, you inviting me and like reaching out to me, and everybody who stayed and watched.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I really
Thank you
had
for
fun.
sharing this journey with us.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Mhm.
how expanded is your brain?
I'd say it's like Milky Way sized expansion right now. We went from Earth size to like Milky Way size. So good, pretty good bit. Pretty good bit, I'd say.
Very good, and thank you for
Lots of
introducing me
expansion.
to Baphomet Sama and also talking about games and anime and stuff. You
Yeah,
reminded me to
of
check out Zero
course.
Experience Lane, so I'll definitely get on once the stream is done. But
Hmm. Hmm.
let's go and find somebody to
My
raid.
pleasure. Mm, boy, who's it gonna be?
Who is it going to be? You can also suggest if you see people online, because I know it.
Um.
I know my hours are like, oh, hey, look at that! Everybody is online right now.
Oh, really? Ooh.
I mean, yeah, I'm used to getting off streaming at like 1 o'clock my time or 12:30 my time, so like then it's like no one's online. But I know we're gonna raid Teru Teru.
Teru Teru, let's
Yeah,
go. Chimera's also
he's playing
very.
I don't think Psychonauts, but Psycolonials is what it's called.
Iconoc? Oh, okay. Huh.
Psycolonials. I thought
Let's
it
see
was
what it's
Psychonauts at
about.
first, but as always, everybody,
Let's
none
go.
raid
None
like
raid.
that.
None raid. Oh, let me copy paste.
And
Oops.
bonne nuit, au revoir, and thank you for sticking around. Have a nice night. See you again soon.
Goodbye, everybody. That was fun.
I'm glad. It was fun for me too.